When I bought tickets for Game 4, I was hoping for a sweep, but this wasn't exactly what I had in
wasn't
mind.
the kind of sweep.
Wasn't exactly what I had in mind.
Did they refund it?
What's that?
Did they refund you money?
Oh, I was at Game 4.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, Sunday night. Yeah. We got out of there at 11:15, and drove back to Grand Rapids, and came home Monday morning.
There we go.
Okay, we are going to start the meeting. Welcome, everyone. This is the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners. Today is Wednesday, October 31st, 2012. We're located at 400 Boardman, Traverse City, Michigan, and we're in the commission chambers. If you have a cell phone, if you could put it on silent or vibrate, that would be helpful to us. And we will call the meeting to order. The first item is our invocation and pledge of allegiance, and I will call on Commissioner Henschel for the invocation. Please, if you would stand.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening, and we just pray a special protection on our community as the children are in the streets and having a good time with the festivities. We also pray a special protection and safety and fast recovery to those who have suffered from the recent storm that's hit our country on the East Coast. Just bring comfort to them. Be with this meeting tonight and bring the Commission wisdom as we seek to do the work of the people. In thy name I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll have a roll call attendance, please.
Commissioner Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas?
Yep.
Richardson?
Here.
Max Bauer? Here. Lemko?
Here.
Henschel?
Yes.
Gilman?
Here.
Fleece?
Present.
Inman?
Here. Okay, all present. We will now move on to the approval of the minutes for September 26th. We'll take them separately.
So moved.
Moved by Thomas.
Support.
Second by Commissioner Wheelock. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Then we have the closed session minutes of September 26th.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the closed session of September 26, 2012 as distributed.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Henschel to approve the closed session minutes for September 26th. Any discussion?
Chris?
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. All right, thank you. We will move on to public comment, and I just want to let everyone know in the audience, if you're here for a particular issue, and that issue is on our agenda, we would be more than happy to take public comment. You would just have to kind of get your attention to me if you'd like to speak during that time period. We're also holding 3 public hearings, and that is also a time for public comment for those particular items as well. So if you want to make a public comment on a general area of county government or any of our issues on our plate tonight, on our agenda, feel free to step forward now, and then you would be available to roll out and do some more trick-or-treating tonight. So step up to the microphone and please state your name and address, and if you could keep it within the 3 minutes or so, I'd appreciate it. And then go ahead and have a seat, and then I will let the clerk read the rules.
Read the rules?
Read the rules.
I'm Andrea Henschel, and
We're going to have her read the rules, and then we'll go with you. Okay? Just to be fair for everybody.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized, and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Andrea Henschel, and I live at 849 East Arbutus Lake Road in Traverse City. It's 49696. And and I am here to address the issue of the fence, in particular the Munson Front Street section. I currently am the board president and executive director of the Autism Resource Network, and largely our population is pediatric families. I also occasionally work with kids at the Oak Park, which houses the Autism Intensive program. Although I realize that this is a park and rec board decision, I'm coming to you as my elected representatives for our county, expressing our particular population's concern with removal of that area of the fence. It, in fact, limits their accessibility to being at the park. I don't like having to be here to mention this. This is very hard for me. I have a lot of respect for you guys and what you do. And I've had countless families call me or email me or message me on Facebook expressing their concern with the danger of their children that have fight or flight, and the fact that their kids, through their programs, although they are still trying to take them for walks through Oak Park, they are no longer able to go down the front street. In fact, that feels rather limiting to their access, and also gives the preponderance that was maybe the intention of not having the children with disabilities walk out towards the front street area to be visible to the public. It's kind of a painful thing to bring up, but our request is that the fence was a big safety issue for our kids and really made that park, in particular, a safe haven for our families with small children and kids with behavioral issues, such as running. I thank you for your time. That is our group's expressed concern, and thank you very much. And happy Halloween.
Okay, thank you for coming this evening. Go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Carrie Gaudette, and I live on 822 Black Hill Lane, Traverse City, Michigan. Currently work for the Traverse Bay Area Intermediate School District as a school psychologist. I have a lot of interaction with children with autism, and I was made aware of this, the issue with the fence via email. I had noticed that it was down when I was taking my son to school at Central High School, and I had thought, wow, they're going to put up a better fence. Well, come to find out they're not putting up a fence, which concerns me. For children such as the autistic children who have a tendency of, like she said, fight or flight, and they have no awareness of safety, and they're fast, and so by the time you catch them, it could be too late. These parents and families need a safe place to go. I have a child who's 2, who is not autistic, but she would run. I love the Civic Center. I love the Kids Cove area, and I'm not sure the reasoning for taking that fence down. I'm not sure if there's anything you as commissioners can do, but if that's something you can look into to put some type of barrier back up, that would be very helpful for the community and the safety of the children. As we're concerned about the safety of the children tonight with Halloween, I'm concerned about their safety in a wonderful park that we have that may not be accessible now to many of those children.
All right. Thank you for coming this evening. Anyone else wish to address the commission? Evening, Ann.
Ann Rogers, 1236 Peninsula Drive, on a different issue. I can't stay tonight until you talk about the budget, but I understand from the paper that there's a possibility you will be relooking at the Meals on Wheels issue, and I think this is tremendously important that you do. Food and water are elements of life, and it's for people who cannot get out and who cannot get good food, this is very, very important. I think there's more to this, though, than just the food. Sometimes people who are homebound have their only human contact through the person who delivers these meals, and it becomes quite, sometimes, very good friends. And I think that, I know that you people are not uncaring, but you need to have compassion for those least able to help themselves and rethink this issue. It is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann, for coming. I just want to let, for the public record, and the clerk will have this as part of our minutes, we got submitted to us by the first public speaker a list of names and of persons that would be supportive of having the fence back. So we'll just put that as part of the public record, that we received that information. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, Mr. Savage.
My name is James Savage, 7176 Cherrywood Court, Traverse City, 86. I've never written a letter to the editor. I've never appeared before this body, but I would like to read a prepared statement. I was born in Munson Hospital in 1947, and I was raised in Traverse City, as were my parents and children and entire Greater family unit. I consider myself very fortunate to be a TC native son. Last week I read of the issue of the $20,000 shortfall on Meals on Wheels program. I was very frustrated and embarrassed as a citizen of and taxpayer in Grand Traverse County. It struck me as ironic and unfair that our seniors, many of whom have paid taxes in this county for decades and now need a helping hand, should lose even one night's sleep over the question of where's their next meal coming from. These same seniors have paid approximately 60% of their property taxes directly as homeowners, indirectly as renters, to support our school system for decades after their last child graduated. I'm 65. My little sister is 48. My dear mother hasn't had a child in school for 30 years. Still, she pays her property taxes and doesn't complain about the necessity of educating the children of our community. Fortunately for our family, my mother is not dependent upon the Meals on Wheels program, but if she were, she would have paid her fair share towards that wonderful concept as a dutiful taxpayer. But the seniors who are directly involved and dependent upon those meals must be worried sick about the outcome of this matter. So while the County Board and Commission on Aging tussle over whose responsibility this is, and fret over the invasion of their political turf, those dear seniors fret over their next meal. I'm here tonight to quell and extinguish that fear. I'm here so that they do not lose so much as one more night's sleep over this issue. I am an idea guy, and I've had one on this issue. I promise that I will raise that $20,000. I promise that I will raise it through private donations from like-minded citizens. I don't have a lot of money anymore, but I do have $100 that I will commit to the goal, and I'm absolutely positive that I will find another 200 people who will do likewise, or 400 people with $50, or 800 people with 20, and if necessary, 1,600 people with 10. It will be done. I will establish an account in Northwestern Bank upon which I will not be signatory in order to accept donations of any size. I would think that a local CPA would be willing, able, and appropriate to oversee that account. When and if the governing bodies represented here tonight resolve the issue at hand, and I'm sure that they will, then any monies collected would simply be donated to the Meals on Wheels program to continue their good work. I hope that this commitment will allay the anxiety and worry for those dear seniors directly affected. To them I say, forget about it. On my monkey business card, I have assigned myself the title of Daymaker. I pass these cards out every day all over town. I'm sure I can find others to help make the day of our precious seniors who need a helping hand. I believe that God put us here in this community to help one another. And I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Savage, for coming this evening. Anyone else wish to speak during general public comment? Thank you, Jim.
Hello again, Andy Merrick, 2875 East Railroad Avenue, Interlochen, Michigan. I'm here to announce that I'm running as a write-in candidate for Green Lake Township Supervisor, and I'm asking for the community support. I have a little handout I'm going to give to the clerk that can be entered into public record. That'll be okay with the chairman. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Thank you. John Stevenson, 4593 State Park Highway, Interlochen, Michigan, 49643. I'm here as Executive Director of the Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency, the agency that operates the Meals on Wheels program. Tough act to follow. I thank him for his commitment and for the Commission too, and the Commission on Aging for the past support and the difficult situation you're grappling with today. We've been grappling with this difficult situation for over a year, as you know. The main thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, and you have a handout that clarifies perhaps some of the questions that were brought up at your last meeting regarding the efficiencies of this particular Meals on Wheels program. I just want to draw your attention to the fact that in this region, the per meal costs of senior meals range from $6.15 a meal at the low end to $9.60 a meal at the high end. That low end cost is what our agency's Meals on Wheels cost is. We are the provider of meals to seniors at that low rate, the lowest in the region. There were some questions about the relationship to the Goodwill Kitchen. This describes that relationship, but I wanted to bring your attention to one other fact, that the meals that are delivered to residents of Grand Traverse County are prepared at the Goodwill Kitchen, and the per meal kitchen cost is $2.89. There were some questions about whether this agency had sought to get a better deal, and I can say without a doubt there is not a better deal than that that's given to us by Goodwill. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming this evening. Any further public comment? Okay.
Carl Defoe, 6505 Mission Ridge, Peninsula Township. I've been a Meals on Wheels volunteer driver for 11 years, and I have a difficult time keeping my emotions in check from some of the clients that I serve. Two of them in particular come to mind. Lady greets me with the open door, storm door wide open, sometimes without a coat. I'm so grateful for your service. You can't know how much I appreciate what you're doing. I'm legally blind and I can't drive anymore. Your meal just means so much to me. I respond to her that it's my pleasure. I'm getting as much satisfaction out of giving her a meal. And all of us feel the same way. All volunteers I know feel the same way. We know we're performing a needed service, and as others have stated, it's a competitive service. Just one more example, a client that I typically call on, I always call on this client. He's normally asleep in a room adjacent to the kitchen. So when I walk in, I always check on him to be sure that he's all right, that he hasn't passed away. And if he has, I don't disturb him, put the meal in the fridge. leave. If none of you have had the experience of delivering Meals on Wheels, I suggest that you consider doing so. I mean, they need the help, they are short of drivers, and I just urge that the $20,000 be restored to the budget. Thank you.
Thank you for coming this evening.
Sorry?
Thank you. Thank you for coming this evening. Next.
Lisa Robichek, 1015 North Marion Drive in Traverse City, and I'm the manager of Meals on Wheels with Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency, and I don't have anything to do with politics. I don't really like to speak in big groups like this, and I'm going to do my best not to cry. But it's an outpouring of support that I see. The only person I knew was coming was John, because at the last meeting, there was lots of people. And the other thing I just wanted to say, Georgia Durgan and I met this today for 2 hours, and we have a very good relationship. And I didn't feel like it was us versus them, but there was a whole room full of people, and there was me. So I asked John, can you come with me? Because I don't want to do this by myself. But it means so much to me to hear the other people that I don't know at all. Mr. Savage, the nice woman that spoke first, and then I had no idea our volunteer Carl was going to come, one of our 100 volunteers. I have been heart-stricken in the last week since the article came out in the paper. I came to the last meeting. Brian McGilvery called me the next day and said, I want to speak with you. And I didn't really want to. I didn't want to get this in the paper. I don't want to have this here. All I want to do is take care of seniors. I want to go back to my office, make sure we have all the volunteers to cover the routes, and everyone's going to get their meal. This is neither here nor there, but we have 3 people in the office. The other person is here today. The third person, his wife has been in intensive care for a month, and she passed away last Sunday. And we're having a memorial service for her on this Friday. So it's been Dorothy and I that have been in the office, making sure things are running and meals are getting there. And I don't want to deal with any of this, because all I know is that there's a $2 million, I don't know about politics, I don't know about TERFs, who has autonomy, authority, I don't really care. All I know is that there's a $2 million senior millage budget. I know there's certain wording and what it's for. All I know is that the person on the street thinks that this is for senior millage, for in-home services. And we, as a community, you guys, us, the Commission on Aging, everyone in this room, and out there in the streets, need to decide what is the most important thing to do with those funds. And it's a collaborative effort. We have a $1.4 million budget, $520,000 for 5 counties we receive from area agency. The rest, it is a blessing for me to work hard every day and night to raise. So $20,000, this nice gentleman from 9 and 10 News just asked me, is that going to be detrimental? Every dollar is detrimental. Is it huge? We have lots bigger, issues, fish to fry, if you will. But the most important thing is it's 1% of the senior millage. And do we think feeding our seniors is important? Do we think people that can't get out, is that important? Yes or no? That's the bottom line. I don't care if the county decides, we're going to let the COA make their decision. The COA says, leave it up to the county. I don't really care. But I think we need to leave tonight assuring everyone that people are going to have meals. This week, I have been so sad that my drivers come in the office, and after Monday morning, and I'm not doing this for effect. I'm trying my hardest to stay calm. And Georgia met one of our drivers today. Her name is Jody. And she is like a second daughter to most of these people who never see anyone because families live away. And she came into me and she said, Lisa, people are so scared their meals are going to get cut. And they're sisters, and one's 92 and one's 94, and they gave her a hug and then said, we want to say goodbye. And she said, well, where are you going? She said, no, I know, I read the article. I'm sure our meals are going to get cut. And she said, your meals aren't going to get cut. She said, well, one of us can stand up. One's in a walker, one's 92, one's blind. Well, I'll stand up, I'll do this part, and then you sit down, I'll stand up, I'll do this part. I had to call so many clients this week and assure them that they're not going to get their meals cut. And so last year, we, at the Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency you have in your packet, we had a $104,000 cash balance that we went right through. We have $4,000 left. Yes, we do fundraising, and the agency supported us by $75,000, but that is not sustainable. And people are going to be on a waiting list because we want to be here for a long time coming. But I don't want any of those people to be on a waiting list. And if any of your grandparents or parents or you, when you call me and you want Meals on Wheels the next day, hot meal delivered with a wonderful volunteer like Carl, I want to be able to deliver it. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Ralph.
Ralph Sofferty, 8220 Heron Street, treasurer of the Commission on Aging. I really don't want to be here, and I'm not questioning or debating the problem or the efficiency of the organization that came before you. They came before us, along with some other organizations that came before us that we also had to cut. We had to cut $400,000 out of our budget. Each one of those dollars is a patient or one of our customers that was served by the same people they're serving. And in doing that, we've got a longer waiting list. We cut some services and we're cutting others. We had 2 employees that weren't replaced. So the money was tight. We were told there's a possibility that there's going to be $60,000 that we will receive because of the analysis that came through after last year's budget was in place. We were told the year before that our budget was okay. Then we were told we're $340,000 in deficit because of the analysis. So we're concerned about the $60,000. And in fact, one of the commissioners last time said, hey, look, trust us. You know, we believe in their program. We had to tell them that we can't give them the money because we can't. You can only cut our programs back so far. We already have our waiting list. What do? Go back and cut some of the same people they're talking about that need medical attention. We already cut our foot program. For a number 280 people that will be off of that that we had under consideration. It's not something that we enjoy doing. It's not something we want to do. I didn't want to make this a political thing. I understand that Ross is on your executive board. I understand why he brought this up. That's part of his responsibility, I suspect, as a board member. As a board member, I have to be fiscally responsible also. If we have the extra money, then we would be glad to do that. We do have about $800,000 in a contingency fund. But if we didn't have that money, and that money was saved over a number of years, and we did have a handle on the budget, and we were able to pay that the first year, in January when we were contacted, we were able to pay that deficit, $340,000 back, and so that we can continue with everything we had. Then we started having meetings on cuts. And that's where we're at now. Who do we turn down? Who else gets to come up here and go through the back door and say, well, we really need this? And then you say and override what we're talking about. I never saw anybody come to our meetings when we're making the cuts. We explained to them why. I heard more about how things are done efficiency-wise, which is good. I'm also on was also on the Goodwill Board, so I understand what that portion is. I don't want to see anybody go hungry. $20,000 isn't going to cave the program in, but I'm telling you to be fiscally responsible. We have an obligation. We may have to go back and cut additional services because of the $20,000. We gave them extra money when we had it. And you know what it's like now financially with revenues coming in. We think that they're going to be good, but you can't count on that. So my only thing is, whatever you come up with, please understand that you're going to have an effect and an impact on what we're doing back there, okay? Or, like I say, and I think it was Commissioner Maxbauer, all right, who said, look, trust us. If we get the money, if you say we're going to get $60,000 back, we'll then look at that and sure we'll come up with that cash to be able to give it back to the Meals on Wheels. But we're only a small portion of what they receive. And we're counting every nickel. So we also want you to be understanding that, that we're not putting them out of business. $20,000 is going to, for what they're talking about, is going to feed a certain number. And by the way, there are 400 of those people, I believe, are people that we also serve. And so I'm just saying to you that we looked at this. We want you to take that in consideration. We don't want this to be a political issue, and it has become one, and that's unfortunate. We want to be able to serve them too if we have the cash and if we have the money. Or if you say we'll take this out of the general fund, I'll be happy. I've told you that before. Or you say, all right, you do the $20,000, and if you're up short, we'll give that to you, and we'll give that to you at the end of the year, the budget year, and put it back in your budget. That's all I'm asking for is a way to solve this particular problem without bringing people in. I can probably load this place up with the people we serve, particularly when we start cutting them.
But that's not what we're in business for. We're just trying to get across to you, understand that we're trying to be fiscally responsible, and we have been. You know, that's why the organization has run. That's why you don't have to pay a penny towards that organization. That's why we pay for everything that you do, because we are fiscally sound and we want to remain that way. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ralph. Anyone else wish to speak under public comment?
Hello, my name is Tom Mayer. I'm canvassing a lot as I'm running for county commission, and one of the things I hear from people who are reading the news and talking among themselves is that everybody that I run into supports reinstituting the $20,000. And I applaud this gentleman who came in tonight, because I thought somebody might actually do that, because it was in the Record Eagle and the word was spreading pretty fast. I applaud him for standing up and saying that he's going to start a fund to raise the 20. And I'll put something in, and I'd ask all of you that are on the commission and here representing the county tonight to do something too, because that's another way of handling the problem. I think Georgia Durga is doing a tremendous job, and I know her. And I think the Commission on Aging has a difficult time raising the money to do all the things that are necessary. But it would be nice to know how many people are waiting too, so that maybe we can have a figure so that we can know what we're trying to raise. And again, I think that's a wonderful idea that somebody has stepped forward. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for coming this evening. Anyone else wish to speak under general public comment? Seeing none, we are going to accommodate an individual that asked for very few remarks to be read into the record. If the clerk could do that for me.
This letter is from A. Jim Galligan. I can't make it back for the meeting, but would like my opinion included in the public comment period. I would hope there could be enough money to continue the county's Commission on Aging contribution to the Meals on Wheels program. This is an extremely important program for our area seniors. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Last chance for general public comment. Okay. Seeing none, we will close public comment. As I indicated, if there's an issue moving forward with our agenda, I'll allow you some time. Okay, now we get to we will close public comment. We will move on to the approval of the agenda. And before I go to the Board of Commissioners, on your desk we have the ad hoc committee recommendation for appointments that I'd like to put under new business A. We have a resolution of support of Senate Bill 1020, which I'd like to put under new business B. And just as a footnote, item number 31, the approval of the apportionment report, that was done Ways and Means. The board took board ratification action, and so that item 31 has already been passed for the 2012 apportionment report. And lastly, under special orders of business, the last one, public hearing for the 013 proposed budget. There's two protocols that we can use for the board. We've done the adoption of the budget after the public hearing by motion and roll call vote, or we can put it under new business later in the agenda. So whatever your pleasure is on that, but I need to indicate those line items for you to be added to the agenda.
It should be under new business.
Okay. So we'll put that adoption of the 2013 budget under new business. So I'm recommending the approval of the agenda with the addition of the ad hoc committee appointments report, the resolution in support of Senate Bill 1020 under new business as well, remove item 31, and the approval of 2013 budget in new business.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
All right, moved by Commissioner Fleece.
I was just going to say, I requested a very brief discussion of the fence issue under new business.
Okay. Repeat that.
A very brief discussion of the fence issue that was brought up in public comment under new business.
Okay. Is it okay? If anybody have an issue with that, because I'll have to take that separately. All right, so we'll add that to new business.
Well, where's this resolution we've got here on the ORVs? I know.
It's resolution support of Senate Bill 1020.
That's the Senate bill.
It's on your desk.
Here, give him this.
He just added that.
That's,
He's got
give him
that.
that.
He's got it.
All right,
He's
all
got
right.
that.
Yeah.
I got it, but I just
Larry just added it.
Oh, that's what he added? Oh,
Yeah.
I couldn't hear him.
All right.
Senate bill
Okay.
number.
So everybody,
All right.
everybody understand the addition to the agenda? So we have a motion by Commissioner Felice, seconded by Commissioner Henschel. Further discussion? Commissioner Richardson.
So we have 5 items now under new business?
We have the ad hoc committee appointments, 1. Resolution of support of Senate Bill 1020, that's 2. Adoption of the budget for 2013, that's 3. And the fence issue is 4.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sure. Anything else added to the agenda? And then we need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
We've got those.
Okay, I'm sorry, okay. Lease and then Henschel. Okay, I'm sorry. Any further discussion?
The fifth one was, they removed item 31.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, we have an agenda.
I see.
We will now move on to special orders of business. The first item is the public hearing on the amended Traverse City Place Brownfield Plan. Gene and whoever else you want to bring up. What we'd like to do is give some basic information about that particular item, and then we will open up to public for a public hearing.
The Traverse City Place amended Brownfield Plan is needed to identify the increased environmental costs associated with the Hotel Indigo project. After additional environmental assessments were completed, it was identified that $708,982 additional environmental work was needed at this site, bringing the total environmental remediation at $1,126,536 for the hotel redevelopment. The amendment is also asking for 2 additional parcels to be included in the Brownfield Plan. Currently, there's 21 parcels. We are asking that the J.S. Hamburger parcel be included in the plan along with the parking lot. This is requested by the DDA to help with their public infrastructure project to construct the bridge over the river between Front and Garland Street. Therefore, the amendment is requesting the increased brownfield cost environmental for $708,982 for environmental activities, bringing the total brownfield plan for $16,544,153. The end date would remain unchanged, remaining at 2032 and adding 2 additional parcels. The Brownfield Authority is recommending approval, and the City Commission has concurred with this amendment as well.
Okay. Thank you, Jean. We'll call you back if we need you. I will now open up the public hearing. Does any member of the public wish to speak on this matter? Seeing no indication, I will close the public hearing. I will move it to the Board of Commissioners for comments or questions. Commissioner Wheelock?
Support.
All right.
Done.
All right, moved by Thomas, Commissioner Thomas, seconded by Commissioner Lemkool to approve the amended Brownfield Plan overview as presented by Gene Dorenzi. Discussion. Commissioner Richardson.
Could we get Gene back for
Yes.
a couple questions? The $16.5 million roughly, that's for the entire Traverse City Place?
For all 23 parcels,
All
that's
23
correct.
parcels, okay. Is there a number that is attached to the parcels that just the hotel qualifies for, or?
Yes, it's a little over $3 million for the hotel project. 1.1 is environmental, and the other is the non-environmental, underground parking, public infrastructure pieces.
Okay. So the 1.1 environmental, that's obviously an increase from before because of the extra problems that were found?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Gilman.
One constituent asked me the question. I wasn't sure exactly what she was asking, but she was saying, okay, well, if all this pollution is right there, and of course then we had the power plant across the street, and then you've got Clinch, which is getting
torn up right now. Is any of that pollution over there, and if that's the case, was that ever remediated before we started churning that up? I guess that's the gist of the question. Is there any indication that that was okay to proceed with that first?
But proceed with the Clinch Park?
Yeah. I mean, is it related? Would the pollution be related?
I can't say that for sure, but I would not believe so. That would be a better question for the environmental consultant for the developer based on.
And I had suggested that you probably got plume maps as well.
Right.
Right.
And we'll have, the next public hearing is to go over the environmental findings at this site, and we can go into a little bit more detail on what was found there. So I think that'll be answer the question a little bit better.
Thank you.
Based on those findings.
It's hamburger grease.
Gene, I just want to make sure I'm proceeding correctly on this public hearing. At this time, you're asking for a motion and support, or is there going to be an additional public hearing, so we'll just withdraw the motion?
No, for the amended brownfield plan, I
Yes.
need the approval of the resolution that's contained in your
All right,
packet.
okay, thank you. Any other commissioner comments or questions? Seeing none, we have a motion support for the recommended amended brownfield plan overview. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yep.
Richardson?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Gilman?
Yes.
Fleece?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Inman?
Yes. Motion passes. Moving on to the second public hearing on the analysis of the brownfield cleanup alternative. Gene?
The Brownfield Authority, through our environmental consultant, AKT Peerless, put together an analysis of brownfield cleanup alternatives, or APCA, which for the Hotel Indigo project. The APCA, it was put together to ensure that the method that proposed by the developer's consultant was reasonable in their approach to remediate this site. The APCA not only identifies the developer's proposal to clean up the site, but also alternatives that could be used to remediate as well. The APCA, at the conclusion of the APCA, identifies that the proposed method to clean up is the most reasonable and effective to protect the public health and safety of the community. The APCA is part of an overall Environmental Protection Agency requirement. In 2010, the Brownfield Authority received a revolving loan fund, and to be able to utilize those funds, this is one of the requirements that is needed. We have issued a public hearing for today's meeting, and also the Brownfield Authority had a public meeting at 8 a.m., and we also had a public input session at the Inside Out Gallery on the 17th of October at 5:30. We have AKT Peerless today, which is the Brownfields consultant that will go through the APCA with you to solicit your comments and also the public's comments as well. The developer's construction manager is here, Paul Dunn, along with the developer's environmental engineer, Andy Smith, Inland Seas Engineering. I'd like to have Doug Kilmer from AKT come up and go through the APCA with you and be able to solicit your comments and answer your questions along with the public's as well.
Okay.
So, Doug?
Good evening. Thank you, Gene. As Gene indicated, my name is Doug Kilmer. I am the senior geologist with AKT Peerless Environmental and Energy Services. We are the County BRA's environmental consultant for this project. What we're speaking to here tonight, as Gene indicated, is the alternative brownfield cleanup analysis. What that is, it is part of the process before the county would award funds from the revolving loan fund from the EPA. It's a requirement of the EPA. Also, as Gene indicated, what we do is it's part of a due diligence step the county proceeds through. We look at what the engineers and developer have recommended they would like to do for projects such as Hotel Indigo. And then we compare that to other feasible alternatives for addressing soil and groundwater contamination. It's a method by which we verify that what has been proposed is appropriate for a number of reasons or categories that we look at. What the APCA process actually addresses is three major categories. It looks at the effectiveness of the remedy that's been, selected by the consultant. It looks at whether or not it can be implemented on this particular project, and then the third category is the absolute cost of it to the project and the impact on the loan dollar. Just to step back for a second, as you're aware, what we're talking about here on the screens in the yellow shaded area, this is the Hotel Indigo project boundary. It's comprised of 3 of the 21 parcels that are part of the Traverse Place Brownfield Plan. These parcels were former commercial establishments some time ago, Midas, there were offices, things like that. What we're proceeding through to is the Hotel Indigo project. It's a boutique hotel, about 105 rooms proposed. It does include underground parking. It has restaurant, conference room space, and then a rooftop bar planned for it. So where we're going with this is that when we went into the APCO, we looked at the construction plans that were provided to us by the developer's consultant, Inland Seas Engineering, as well as we look at the environmental studies that they have conducted on this project. As you're aware, there's been an increase in the funds that have been requested for this project. It's due to the additional due diligence performed by Inland Seas, identifying additional concerns or areas that need to be addressed as part of construction. So in the APCA process, what AKT did is we looked at the soil and the groundwater problems and then the selected remedies. And then we took those and we compared them to other things. So in brief, for soil, we'll start there. We looked at the first selection was a no action, which means that really let's not do anything with this. Let's let construction proceed as if this was a greenfield site. That is not a feasible or an appropriate alternative for this property. The soil out there is contaminated. There are constituents of a variety of different types out there, petroleum, metals, cyanide in nature. This contamination needs to be controlled for human health reasons, for protection of the environment. The second alternative we looked at was what the consultant proposed, which was excavation of the footing, the material from the footprint of the building, and then removal of this material to an off-site licensed facility for disposal, in this case, which is a landfill. Again, what we have here is a zero lot line project that's going to extend approximately 10 feet in depth from the current grade. Because of the sub-grade structures being predominantly the parking garage, that material needs to be removed from the site. The third then analysis method we looked at was a soil washing method, which is a way of actually separating the contamination from the soil and trying to preserve the bulk of the material for reuse. That is a technically complex type of situation. It's appropriate to use on this type of a site. It could address all the different types of contamination that are present in this soil, but from an implementation and a cost phase, it was not feasible. That type of activity, it requires a large land space to do it, which is not available based on the construction plan for this project. Because they're basically digging the entire 3 parcels out to put in the subgrade structures, there's no surface area left within to work. So then we would be talking about a situation of where to apply that particular method, we'd be transporting to a third property somewhere else, conducting the treatment there, managing contamination on a property that may or may not already be contaminated. It adds a level of complexity because we're double handling the material. And then on top of that, it's just because of the nature of the contaminants that we have, the multiple types, the process would actually have to be conducted several times to address each of the types because their chemistry is different. So that ended up with being extreme cost. So what, in terms of the soil then, what they recommended, which was the excavation and off-site disposal of the licensed facility, was the most appropriate. We conducted the same type of process then for the groundwater. In this case, what we're talking about groundwater, the subgrade structures of the garage and some of the foundation work needs to be installed below the current water table. The water is somewhere around 8 to 10 feet in depth at the site at this time. And to do that, there's two different things that we have to address with water. They need to de-water or lower the water table so they can get their construction in and work in that environment. So that requires that the water that was pumped out from the ground to lower the level be managed because it is contaminated. And then the longer term protection then because when they're done dewatering, that table will come back up to its current levels, which would put it into the lower elevations of the garage. So that needs to be protected from intrusion of water, which again is contaminated. So we have the issue of protection of health and prevention of conveying that water to other locations that are not currently impacted. So walking through the same steps, we actually looked at 4 different comparisons for this particular aspect of the project. Again, the first was no action. Do we let work proceed just as it normally would? Quickly, again, the answer to that is no. We know we have cyanide in groundwater at this site, so it has to be managed. We couldn't just let it get discharged anywhere. You have the bay to protect, you have the infrastructure around there to protect, so it wouldn't be appropriate to just pump it out. The second method we looked at was actually lowering the groundwater table like they would do during construction, but making that a permanent aspect of the development. So that for as long as the hotel was there, we would depress the water table underneath it to keep the water out of the lower elevations of the project. It's feasible. It's done a lot of places. It's costly was the problem predominantly with it. There's 2 issues on the cost. It's because it's a mechanical process, it requires ongoing maintenance to manage the pumps. Over the lifetime we're talking about of a hotel, 30 to 50 years, you could imagine, pumps would be replaced, infrastructure needs to be maintained, upgraded. So you have a cost involved with that. And then the other part is all of the water that you're pumping out from underneath the structure to keep that water table down, that all has to be managed. It can't be just discharged to the bay or the storm sewers. It would have to actually be treated or otherwise contained and appropriately dealt with, again, for protection of human health and the environment. So the next couple processes we looked at, the third one was actually looking at, can we remediate the groundwater in the area of the project? Can we remove this burden in a short period of time so that we can alleviate the need to address this in construction? Again, that was just not a feasible answer. There's 2 problems again with that. One is, while we could address the water right at the construction site itself, as you all know, water moves, and the material is coming from off-site sources that have yet to be identified in full. So while we could treat a localized area in a short period of time, we would have additional contaminated water moving into the project, so it wouldn't be well-spent funds, and we'd be fighting that constantly. The other problem with that is, as I mentioned before, we're not sure exactly where all of this material that's causing the contamination is coming from out there. And for us to be able to adequately and quickly get in and address and remediate that, that's the information we need to know. We have to be able to target it and to efficiently determine how to remediate it and do it again in a cost-efficient manner. We don't have that information at this time, and on a timescale of a construction project like this, we can't gather that information and keep them on track and let this development go forward. So the fourth method we looked at was what was recommended by Inland Seas as the consultant for the project, and it's a passive barrier that would separate the subgrade portions of the structure from the underlying contaminated groundwater. In this case, what we're talking about, if you can see on your screens, this is kind of a schematic of what's going to happen here. The yellow in there is engineered sand base, the foundation for the structure that we put in. So we're going to pull the water table down to that lower blue line. They will come in, they'll lay in the sand, compact it. And then they're going to put in what we call a high-density polyethylene liner. It's just a very, very heavy plastic. It comes in panels. It's welded or field constructed in the hole. And that will create like a solid barrier. It's tested as it's constructed. The seams are tested through several methods to verify that we have a watertight barrier put in place. And then the second part of this construction with the plastic itself is we would wrap it up around the foundations. As you can see here, there's the concrete. We're going to have precast footers and walls will be brought in, set down inside this plastic. The liner then is wrapped up and it's bonded to the exterior of the building. It's bonded Inland Seas has given us a redundant method of both chemically or like an adhesive, and then as well as doing a mechanical, which is a bar, where we're connecting it right to the building. So the entire perimeter of this barrier will be connected to the building. One other thing about the plastic is the elevation. We're going to bring it up to a height that brings it not only above the current water table, but Inland Seas will bring it up to what is the historical high water mark and probably a foot or so above that, so that it's a safety measure for potential future. We don't know in 30 years you'll go through an extended wet period, the water tables will come back up. We have to prevent against that. So that's all engineered into this design. One other point that Inland Seas has designed into this process is the chemistry of the concrete itself. It's a self-healing mix. That means that if there's cracks or fractures that come in there and the water mixes with the chemistry of the concrete itself, it'll crystallize, seal those cracks. There's compounds in the joints, and then the last part of that is that they do monitor this over the first couple years as the building settles in place. That's basically a visual verification that the system is working and is sealed tight. So based on this analysis that we conducted for both the soil and the groundwater, the recommendations of the developer's consultant of removing soil and taking it to an off-site licensed disposal facility and then addressing groundwater through this impermeable barrier are appropriate and feasible methods, both for the ability to do what we're trying to accomplish here as well as doing it within a reasonable cost. Real quick, I'll jump in. This is the rendering. I'm going to ask Paul Dunn to step up real quick and speak to you. Just a little bit more information about the construction of the development itself.
I had a question.
Sure.
What's the lifetime on that plastic barrier?
It's expected well beyond the length of the hotel we expected. I don't have a number for you specifically, but it's in the well beyond 50 years or more. It's pretty much it's chemically compatible with everything that's in the ground. So once these are in place, we don't expect like corrosion or wear and tear on them. Typically, they're an inert material that's pretty stable. Nothing's permanent, but in the foreseeable future, I do not expect a problem.
But this is a fairly new technology. Right?
No, this is not a fairly new technology.
It's not?
No. The methods that are being proposed for this barrier have been in use for well over 30 years. The same type of plastic and field construction methods have been used in landfills for quite a bit of time. Inland Seas did a fair bit of due diligence before they proposed this. They went through this morning also that they looked at an alternative system similar in application in terms of coating the exterior of the building or wrapping it to prevent water infiltration. But for this particular project, this was the most appropriate balance of effectiveness, cost, and the ability to actually construct it.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas?
I hate to ask a dumb question, but why not just build it above the water table and you wouldn't have to worry about it?
My understanding...
All you'd have to do is mitigate the pollution.
I understand your question. My understanding is for this project to proceed forward as it's designed, there's limitations on height of the building itself, so that would restrict the developer from jacking up the project to bring the subgrade garage out of the water table. We were talking about an elevation change of probably 8 feet would be required. So that restriction prevents them from proceeding with this development as is. The other part of it is each of these developments are, the value of the land down there, and the parking is a premium, and these developments are almost needing to be self-sustaining in their demand for that.
Commissioner Wheelock?
Just a quick question. As I understand it, the structure is going to be approximately 10 feet subgrade, and then the compacted soil is below that, correct?
To an extent. I don't have the exact figures in front of me.
Trying to get an idea how many, people ask, well, how much dirt are they digging out? So I'm trying to get
The first 12 feet is what we're anticipating.
12 feet by how big?
The entire footprint of the project
So are we looking at?
This design is what they call...
500,000 cubic yards?
No. No. Andy, do you have the number?
18,000 cubic yards?
18,000 cubic yards, right. Yeah, it's not an unreasonable number.
No, that's less than I thought it would be by a lot.
Yeah, yeah. This is a zero lot line project, though, just so everyone understands that the excavation, I do have another plan here. This is an engineering design or schematic that they have for the permitting process. What they do is, because they're going to basically dig the entire footprint of these 3 parcels out to the sidewalk, so to speak. They will sheet pile that perimeter line to prevent, collapse of the surrounding infrastructure they have to maintain, the roadways, the public spaces, utilities, things like that. The other advantage, because they are using the sheet piling, it will assist with limiting the amount of water that comes into the excavation, which is another advantage to, with the dewatering. It restricts the flow that has to be managed during the project.
Okay, Commissioner Henschel.
Really neat ideas. I like it. I'm sure you have this figured out, but as it rains and snow melts in the spring, water runs downhill. Won't it run into the parking area? And since you're wrapped with plastic, how do you get that water out?
They have that designed or managed with. I don't think that we're going to have running water inside the garage or anything. There will be storm management up and outside of this that will capture that prior to entering inside the building. The standard utilities will still be in place. Those are at an elevation well above the water table. So it's not, by doing these methods, we're not preventing any of the standard requirements of construction.
Okay, you have someone else that you want to bring up?
Just going to have Paul speak to you real quick.
Sure.
Just if you
get him introduced when he comes up.
Yep.
My name's Paul Dunn, I'm with Grand Traverse Hotel Properties.
Okay, welcome.
The hotel, it's 107 rooms, 4-story.
You can talk a little closer to the microphone.
It's 107 rooms, 4-story, full-service restaurant, banquet facility, rooftop bar. It's a mixture of building components with poured-in-place concrete, planking system, and metal studs, and the exterior is going to be brick, cast stone, and truss boat materials. And any other questions, I guess?
Commissioner Fleece.
Photo we were looking at the project there, is the back of the hotel facing the bay?
Yeah, I'll show you. That one. Yeah, that's...
All Street's on the left?
Excuse me?
All Street's on the left?
Correct.
And so the back of the project is facing the bay or the parkway?
Correct, but there'll be entrance off there for the restaurant and bar from the front. The main entrance will be off of Garland Street in the back right there.
I think he has a rendering.
We're looking at the front of it right here, right?
Correct.
And that's Garland Street immediately in front of it?
Yes.
He's got a rendering over there that I can see against the wall, Larry, of what it will look like from the parkway.
This is the Grandview Parkway.
That'll be the front of the road.
That'll be the front that faces the bay.
Okay. Any other questions of that? Okay, does that conclude your basic information presentation? Okay. We will now open up a public hearing on the analysis of the brownfield cleanup alternatives for the Hotel Indigo. Does any member of the public wish to speak at this time? Yes, ma'am. Come on up and get your name and address. And
I'm Ellen Fivenson, 717 Bloomfield, Traverse City. I own the property that the Inside Out Gallery is on right now. So I have been watching this property Since 1991, when I acquired my property. A little bit of history. The original Traverse City Place brownfield development had none of this in it, in this particular area. The original one, which was done by Ira Green from Petoskey, enveloped the whole area, but started with a berm to separate the beginnings of this project from the parkway. And approximately where my property was going to be were 2 3-story buildings, retail office buildings. And then as you progress toward the river, that's where the 4-story condos were going to be and the underground parking facilities. So it would have changed dramatically the focus and the direction of any sort of building like that, but that didn't come through. So here we are today. This is a very exciting concept. I guess one of my questions is the original studies in terms of brownfield were not this extensive. And I sort of wondered, where did we go from the beginning to where we are now? And I think I sort of heard that, but I would like to have it summarized very simply, because I heard a lot of information and I'm not exactly sure I understand why we weren't given this information at the beginning. And I also have a question about the effect of all of this construction and activity on the adjoining properties. I mean, obviously during construction there's going to be a lot of inconvenience, and we'll put up with it. But do we have any sort of guarantee about what is going to happen with the groundwater where we are at too? So, just some thoughts,
right.
Some questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other member of the public wish to speak at this time? Does any member of the, going at once, twice, any other member of the public wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Jean, if you could approach, I just want to get some clarification. It does not call for any action on our part at this point. It just calls for the documentation of minutes to public comment at this point.
Correct. The process will be that we will record the public comments, package that up, and send to EPA, and EPA will have the final approval on the proposed method of cleanup.
Okay.
So no action is required.
So you don't,
I would hope that we will follow up with Mrs. Fivenson's questions and try to get her that additional information too, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Ellen has my email, I have her email, so I'm sure we'll communicate.
I'm sure we've all talked before, so.
all right, good.
We do.
Okay, I think that concludes that matter, unless you have any other comments among board members. All right, that concludes that issue. We will now move on to the public hearing of the 2013 proposed budget. The county board has a proposed budget for the 2013 fiscal year, beginning January, of $37,774,239, which matches our expenditures as recommended by our county administrator and controller. And it is similar to the 2012 amended budget, which was $37,245,375. So I will now open it up for, why don't we do this? Dave, do you have anything in addition you wish to speak on behalf of the public before we open up the public hearing on the budget?
No, I don't. I just wanted to add that when you adopt the budget, you are adopting the general appropriations resolution, and that was delivered to you. It looks like this.
Yes.
It's in your packet from the budget process, and the budget, all the numbers, all the line item detail, all the staffing plan, all that is attached, and the taxes are all attached to this resolution.
All right. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, with that information, I will open up the public hearing. Does any member of the public wish to speak on the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners budget for 2013 as proposed? Yes.
Jim Crothers, 218 West 11th Street, City Commissioner and Chair of the Resource Recovery Council. I'm here to speak for myself, but on behalf of the Resource Recovery Council and the proposed surcharge that we recommended to the Board of Commissioners for this year's budget. Originally, staff proposed a $4.45 per ton surcharge. The council then lowered that to $4 per ton, which was then submitted to your review, and the County Resource Management and Administration Committee voted to make that surcharge $2 per ton, having that even more. I'm here to speak that we continually cut the surcharge, which we have done as a board, Resource Recovery Council, over the years. We've already cut it in half. Now we're bringing it down even further. We spent the past, I would say, 5 years recommending other funding opportunities to the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Public Works, which seems to fall on deaf ears. We can't continue our program without funding, and currently the only funding we have is the surcharge. By adoption, you have three various ways to fund our department. Funding for the council will be derived from three principal sources: permit fees generated by the development of new solid waste facilities, permit fees collected for licensing of haulers as directed by ordinance number 17, and a chosen solid waste/waste reduction funding mechanism as adopted by the County Board of Commissioners and/or Board of Public Works. We have researched various options: PA 138, PA 69 user fee, a voter-approved millage, hauler licensing, general fund expenditure, special assessment, and landfill surcharge. Those are what we know we can use to fund this program. And so I'm here to support resource recovery and saying we can't continue to lower the surcharge to a point where we're having to spend down our fund balance. We have about, at this rate, we have about 3 years left of fund balance. And if that's your wish for us to spend it down, great. But to me, that just is an aim to possibly do away with this department. Because if we don't have money in the bank, we don't have money to fund our program in the future, it may have to go away. And I'm a firm believer that we need to regulate our solid waste in this area. Otherwise, we're going to have trash along the road like we did back in the 70s when we changed, when we supported the bottle bill. I wish you would make this budget item full to the $4 per ton as recommended by the Resource Recovery Council until you, as a commission, decide how to fund this program. You cannot take away our funding without offering us something else. So I'm speaking on behalf of the staffing. We're already at bare bones. 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, we did cut our budget in half. We got rid of the recycling rollouts, and that cut our budget in half. We were the largest cut in all your departments. We made that cut. We provide many educational services. We provide household hazardous waste collection. We provide medical waste. We provide farm hazardous waste collection. We do a valid service for the county, and we do it well, and we're getting the hazardous waste that should not be put into the regular waste stream out of it and put in the right hands. So this program is working. We've moved to curbside recycling throughout the whole of the county. We've got a single hauler system in the city of Traverse City. It goes on what we have accomplished, and I just do not want our budget pruned so much that we can't do anything. We're down to 1 full-time manager, 1 full-time marketing education specialist, a half-time clerical person, and 1 seasonal brush site operator. So we're pretty bare bones right now. And yes, we have fund balance, but a lot of your other departments have fund balances much greater than ours. We were talking about Commission on Aging. Theirs is over double our fund balance, and we're talking $20,000 or $30,000 for them. So why not, yes, use your fund balance, but ours is going away fast. So please restore the resource recovery recommended surcharge to the $4 per ton as recommended by the council. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wish to speak? Yes, Georgia.
Georgia Durga, Director, Grand Traverse County Commission on Aging, and I'll make it brief because I know you have a fact sheet from us, but I would also like to talk about Commission on Aging services. We also serve frail clients that are homebound, that also don't get a contact other than our staff people, and run into the same situation that Meals on Wheels do. We serve people that are sometimes dying, sometimes close to death. So I think that our services are also important. We have long wait lists. We've eliminated 3 positions. We've cut 75 clients from our home chore program. We've cut all our foot care clinics. We reduced our fees. All of these have been at county board's request to cut costs and cut our fees. We've done all that. And so I would like to request, I think we've been very good stewards of the county and the taxpayer dollars. We have not, I don't think, wasted any or spent more than what we've needed to spend or spent it because we had a fund balance. We are also spending down our fund balance, and I would ask that you respectfully, we understand, I know our board is very clear that we understand that it is this county commission's responsibility, and they make you all make the final decision, but we would ask that you would allow our board, who spent probably 18 months, a year and 8 months looking at this, to allow them to finish looking at it and come back with a recommendation to you. Thank you. Happy Halloween.
All right, thank you, Georgia. Any other member of the public wish to speak on the 2013 County Commission budget? Okay, seeing none, we will close that public hearing, and we, of course, will bring up the discussion of the 2013 budget under new business. All right, with that, we will move on to the consent calendar. Is that okay, Commissioner Gilman? Did you have a comment?
No.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman, I
yes.
would like to comment. Mr. Crothers talked about the surcharge.
Yes.
And no one in the room has opposed the surcharge more than I have for 20-some years, so nobody's surprised by that. But I can't help but notice when I look at my resource recovery packet for tomorrow, the Resource Recovery Department this year has spent $296,680 of a budget of $402,979. This is as of October 31st. Or no, this would have been October 24th. This is the budget summary of the 24th. They are anticipating increasing their fund balance by $26,930.72 this year because their revenue is greater than their surplus, or greater than their expenditures. This fund balance is anticipated at the end of 2012 to be $473,543.72. That is just 115%, 118% of a $300,000 budget. You know, it's absurd that we have that kind of a fund balance, and that's why the decision to cut it down.
Okay, all right. We can get into more detail if we want to under new business. Everybody set for the consent calendar? All right. We'll move on to the consent calendar for the members of the public and the audience. The consent calendars are items that the County Commission has will receive and file through the month, and also the preliminary recommendations that we've made as a committee of the whole. And we meet 3 times a month to discuss various areas of the county and make certain recommendations at our month-end board meeting, which is tonight. So the clerk will read the consent calendar for the board to consider.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, Bay County Resolution in support of clean, affordable, renewable energy for Michigan. Number 2, Oceana County Resolution opposing ballot propositions 3 and 5. 3, Department of Natural Resource correspondence of September 26, 2012 regarding oil and gas lease auction. Number 4, Social Security Administration correspondence regarding move to 1329 South Division Street. Number 5, Land Conservancy's correspondence regarding National Land Trust Excellence Award. Number 6, Boom Boom Club information and thank you. Number 7, Commission on Aging fact sheet. Number 8, Area Agency on Aging minutes of August 2nd. Number 9, Department of Human Services Board minutes of August 24th. Number 10, Commission on Aging minutes of September 4th. Number 11, CRA Boardman Project Managers minutes of September 7th. Number 12, Board of Public Works minutes of September 13th. Number 13, Traverse Area District Library minutes of September 20th. Number 14, Northern Lakes Community Mental Health minutes of September 20th. Number 15, Special Board of Public Works minutes of September 21st. Number 16, Community Collaborative minutes of September 27th. Number 17, Special Board of Public Works minutes of October 2nd. Referrals, none. C, approvals. The Public Health and Safety Committee recommends approval of the following resolutions. Number 18, Comprehensive Planning, Budgeting and Contracting Agreement for fiscal year 2013. Number 19, Health Department, Lease and Equipment Purchase Agreements with the Health Department of Northwest Michigan for Lafreniere Road Health Services Building Dental Clinic. Number 20, Community Corrections Grant Contract, fiscal year 2013 to 2015. The Resource Management Administration Committee recommends approval of the following resolutions. Number 21, Mental Health Services for Sobriety Court Participants, 86th District Court. Number 22, Mental Health Court Program Grant Funding. Number 23, District Court Indigent Misdemeanor Contract. Number 24, Bloodborne Pathogens Exposure Control Plan Document Update. Number 25, Written Hazard Communication Program Document Update. Number 26, Snow Removal Services Bid, Elmer's Crane and Dozer. Number 27, Letter of Agreement between the Board of Commissioners and AFSCME Supervisory Bargaining Unit. Number 28, Landfill Surcharge for 2013. Number 29, Reorganization of the Prosecuting Attorney's Office. Number 30, Reevaluation of Job Duties, Friend of the Court. Pardon me?
31's already been approved, I just wanted to remind you of that.
Okay. Ways and Means Committee recommends approval of the following resolutions. Number 30.
Just go with 32.
Yeah.
Approved.
Already approved. Number 32, budget adjustments. Number 33, resolution supporting the designation of an agricultural processing renaissance zone for shoreline fruit.
Okay. Clerk has read the consent calendar. Does any member of the public wish to have any item pulled from the consent calendar for further discussion? Yes.
Jim Crothers, 218 West 11th Street, 28 landfill surcharge for 2013.
Okay, thank you. Any other member of the public wish to have an item pulled? Seeing none, we will now move to the Board of Commissioners. Does any commissioners wish to have an item pulled? Commissioner Gilman.
One, please.
Which one?
Number one.
Number one. Okay, anyone else? Commissioner Maxbauer.
Number 27.
Okay, Commissioner Wheelock.
Mr. Chairman, as you are aware, I was not here for Ways and Means. I have reviewed the budget adjustments, and I have reviewed the issue in regard to the agricultural renaissance zone, and I am prepared to vote on those unless you have a problem, or Bob says that I should not.
No, that's fine. It's your judgment call.
That's fine.
Okay. Anyone else want to pull an item? Okay, we need a motion on the floor to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 1, 27, and 28.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Flee, seconded by Commissioner Richardson to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 1, 27, and 28. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Maxbauer?
Yes.
Limcool?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Gilman?
Yes.
Fleece?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas?
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Consent calendar is approved. Now we go to items removed from the consent calendar. We will start with item number 1 under receive and file. Commissioner Gilman, you have the floor.
I just wanted to indicate my, as those of you on the board might be aware, it was a resolution from Bay County that I disagreed with last year. I think it's equally important to recognize significant thought that went into this. This particular resolution is in opposition to the 25 by 25 proposal, and it was passed unanimously in Bay County by the Bay County Commissioners, the resolution against the 25 by 25, and I'd like to give them credit for thinking this through. I think it's they recognize it's bad policy, and I tend to agree with it.
Okay. So we need a motion to receive and file.
So
Commissioner
moved.
Richardson? And so who seconded that? Commissioner Gilman. So we have a motion to receive and file item number 1 by Richardson, seconded by Gilman. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Okay. That takes us to item number 27. Commissioner Max Bauer, you have the floor.
I don't wish to consent.
Okay. Any other comments? We need a motion. Commissioner Richardson?
Move for approval.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Richardson, seconded by Commissioner Fleece to approve item number 27, letter agreement between the Board of Commissioners and the AFSCME Supervisory Bargaining Unit. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Max Bauer?
No.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Henschel?
No.
Gilman?
Yes.
Fleece?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Motion passes with 2 nays. So that does pass. We move on to item number 28. The public member and City Commissioner, Mr. Crothers, you have the floor.
Jim Crothers, 218 West 11th Street, City Commissioner and Resource Recovery Council Board Chair. Again, as long as Sunny and I have been sitting on Resource Recovery, which is quite some time, I know that Sunny has been trying to do away with the landfill surcharge, and that's fine. But until we replace the surcharge, we need to have a funding source. And we've presented options. We've met jointly as boards. We've met with the Board of Commissioners. There's other options. The Board of Commissioners has to take a stand and find another option to fund this department if you're going to make the surcharge go away. And we could will it away. We can do this every year until the fund balance is gone. And then what are we going to do? You all have to make your decision. How are we going to fund this program? And yes, it might mean a tax or a fee on the residents, but that's why I believe you do not support doing anything, because you all have to run every 2 years. And it's difficult to run a campaign when you want to raise people's taxes. But if we're going to run this department another way, we need to come up with a funding source. So I'm asking you, please, to not remove our funding source or do anything to our funding source until you decide what to do in the future.
Okay, thank you. I'll just make a remark, and then we'll open it up to the commission, that just my perspective on this issue is that I see the perspective of Commissioner Wheelock, that the board's direction has been to continue to wind down that fund balance to a point where the activity level, based on what we think would be a reasonable fund balance, right now it's on the high side, then the board can make a decision to maintain the surcharge at a certain level to keep the department going or go to a different type of funding. I would prefer the surcharge myself, but I'm in favor of winding it down to the point where the activity level, based on what we see at the landfill and what we have for a fund balance, is practical on both sides to make the operation go. Commissioner Fleece.
I would move that we approve the landfill surcharge as discussed for 2013.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Fleece, seconded by Commissioner Richardson. Is there further discussion? We'll go with Richardson, Thomas, and Wheelock.
I understand Commissioner Crothers' concerns about the funding of this department. However, they do have a really large fund balance. It's about over 200% of their annual revenue. So I know that they're not going to be in any trouble next year. They may not be in any trouble for several years. But What I am really curious, because I've been sitting here for quite a while now, listening to Commissioner Wheelock, complain about the surcharge and how unfair it is and so on and so forth. But actually, a lot has changed in the last 4 or 5 years. We now have countywide curbside recycling, which we did not have before. We have single hauler plans in place inside Traverse City in many of the townships, either specified or preferred. Basically, all of the trash haulers are calculating the cost of recycling into their formula. So what I am curious is, and this is the point I made when we were trying to pass the surcharge 3 weeks ago. And by the way, it took 3 attempts before we got a majority vote.
Right.
We defeated $4, we defeated $3.50, and then finally at $2, we picked up the 5th vote we needed to establish this surcharge. What I would like to see, and I would actually request staff to just do a quick survey on what commercial trash hauling rates are now, and whether, when we cut the surcharge in half, there would be any change, because I'm guessing there won't be any change, that there will be no savings to the customers who are supposedly being afflicted by the surcharge, that money will basically be pocketed by the haulers. If it's not, that's great. But by cutting it in half, maybe we'll actually get some evidence as to whether it is or it isn't. And then after another year goes by, maybe we'll decide that it doesn't really make any difference what we set that surcharge at.
Okay, and then we have Commissioner Thomas.
Well, my problem is that no matter what you set the price, you could lower it to $1, and the haulers aren't going to lower their price. I just hope that everybody that's listening calls their hauler and tell them, hey, your rates just went down, how about my rates?
Right.
Because they never have it when they were $9.
Right. Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, like I say, I just have tomorrow night's packet here. Landfill volumes have decreased by 10,253 tons through the first 3 quarters of 2012. We cannot depend on a landfill surcharge to fund this department. It's going down by double digits every single year. Recycling at the curbside is up 1,318 tons. The recycling at the drop-off sites is down 233 tons. Well, primarily due to the spring storms, the brush drop-off site is up significantly. The point is that you need a different alternative funding, and I've said for years we should be either putting PA 138 or PA 69 in place, but you need to understand, Jim, the county board cannot do that. It is a function of the townships. The county does not have the ability to, in fact, either PA 138 or PA 69. They have to be done by the townships because they are the local taxing unit.
Okay, Commissioner Lundquist.
Yeah, I also happen to agree with Sonny as to the tipping fee, but I also want everybody to know that I'm probably one of the biggest recyclers and composters. My trash is one small bag every other week, and I totally believe in the recycling program. I just don't believe in the way we're funding it, and I do believe that we have to figure out how to get the townships to come on board and say, look, recycling is an important part of our community, and we must be able to provide that service, but we need to be able to figure out how to pay for it fairly by everybody, but also feel that a fund balance of over 100% of your budget is not fair, and so that's why I probably will not support this motion because I don't support the tipping fee.
Okay. I have a comment. Commissioner Henschel?
Sure. Well, I just kind of want to point out Commissioner Richardson's logic model. If we just made it $100 a ton, since it doesn't matter to the end consumer either way, we could just set it to $100 and then solve a bunch of our budget problems because they don't pay any more or less based on what they get charged.
Obviously, there are certain limitations
right.
to the model here, Ron.
Right, and we don't know what those are, and so I think fundamentally we need to look at this from a philosophical standpoint of more tax is bad because the dollar in the economy gets less value when a government entity spends it. And that's why we want to have a bare minimum of taxation, and I think that's why the majority of this board is fiscal conservative, because we follow that logic model. And Commissioner Crothers, you left one option out, and that's just not to have the department. Nobody even thought about that. Did Paul Revere make his great ride so we could have recycling in the community? Is that really the purpose of government? I pose that question.
I might say yes, but I have a comment, but I will go to Commissioner Richardson first.
Go ahead. Well, I would just want to say that my point is that a small variation of the tipping fee is not going to make any difference in the rates charged to our commercial and industrial customers, unless they're very, very large customers indeed. I am a commercial customer. I'm not a commercial customer in Grand Traverse County, but I am a commercial trash customer in my business, and and I deal with the same companies there that we deal with here. I mean, because these are big national franchises, and they don't cut these businesses any slack. I'm sorry, and just because they get a little reduction in their cost doesn't mean they're going to pass it back to the customer.
Okay. Commissioner Gilman.
It's a matter of scale. For every ton of trash that they pick up, they're only taking a few pounds right now into the dump anyway. By the time American Waste is through with their process, they've got the recyclables stripped out and they're cashing in on that. So as far as savings go, that $2 or $4 or whatever it might be, there's no way anybody would recognize a change in their bill if it was passed through directly. There's no way.
Yeah, and I agree with you. My comment on it is that, we've continued to do what the past board has directed us in terms of their philosophy, is to continue to drop the surcharge rate and to level out the fund balance and then make a determination at the point where we think the fund balance is reasonable to make a determination how we want to fund it. Now, this is my 20th year on the county board. I've never had a citizen step in our boardroom or get a phone call that I'm aware of, other than Commissioner Wheelock, complaining of the surcharge. It's a user fee basis of operating a department. If you think World War III is happening on the $25 suggested septic treatment plant surcharge, throw one of these on the ballot, because I'm going to tell you what, it'll go down in flames. If you think you're going to add an additional tax to the public, either by vote or by millage it, or putting it on the ballot, it will get crushed. Especially for a service they're already receiving, and then you want to spend a special assessment and tax them more, when we already have a system that they're not complaining about, that some of us think are fair and nobody's really complaining. I mean, I think it's a balancing act, but I guess I wouldn't be in favor of going in a different direction, but I will support the motion on the floor. Any other discussion?
One comment I just forgot to mention is that thanks American Waste for the tote that is a covered tote, and if you haven't got one and you're doing recycling, call American Waste and get one, because it really does make a difference. Instead of having the box that sits out without a cover, papers can fly all over the place. Now you can get a tote and a cover on it, and it's all protected. And I just strongly encourage those that are American Waste customers to call them up and order one, because they are what we've been asking for a number of years.
It also holds 96 gallons instead of 18.
A whole 96 gallons of recycling. So,
Commissioner Felice.
Ross, perhaps where your business is, you get to deal with the other two companies that we have here. But American Waste, the locally owned company out of Kalkaska, and I was paying one of those other companies several years ago about $120 a month, and American Waste came along, and my bill went down to $79. And today, it still hasn't reached $100.
Well, actually, I did switch from Allied to a local company, and I'm getting much better service and a much better deal. But it was very difficult just to extricate myself from my relationship with Allied. So and of course, Waste Management was at the same time also trying to get my business, but with the same kind of restrictions, which were not We're not pretty.
But you look at what American Waste has done in this community, particularly in the recycling, they really ought to be commended.
Right, I agree.
Agreed.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Hopefully, we have 5 votes on this thing. But we have a motion of support to approve the resolution in place to take it to $2 a ton. So we have a roll call vote, please.
Lemko,
No.
Henschel.
No.
Gilman,
Yes.
Fleece,
Yes.
Wheelock,
No.
Thomas,
Yep.
Richardson,
Yes.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Motion passes 6-3. Thank you. That concludes the consent calendar. We will now move on to the administrator's report. Administrator Benda, item A is the Peterson letter.
Yes, I received a letter
He's back.
from Mr. Peterson. I think you folks may know him. He is the person who owns the Atlas Polar Trash Rake Systems at the Boardman and Sabin Dams. He was the one that bought all the equipment. And those are debris traps for the dams, and they are cleaned out weekly by the DPW staff. Mr. Peterson was asked repeatedly by the previous administrator several years ago to remove the equipment.
Yes.
In several letters, pieces of correspondence I saw. But he left them in place and said we could use them without charge. He now has sent a letter saying he wants $1,150 a month for both units, and I wanted to, it might have had something to do with the dam situation, and there was a lot of additional debris generated as a result of the Brown Bridge Dam. But at any rate, I have drafted a letter. It's not completed, but indicating that he can remove these items at any, or both of these rakes at any time. But he's going to have to contact us well in advance so that we can have staff available to give him access to the site. And I'll indicate that we'll continue to empty those without charge to him.
Okay.
Can we charge rent for that space?
That's what I'm suggesting.
Commissioner Fleece.
Mr. Benda, you wasn't around, but he bought that equipment, generators and all, for about $67,000, if my memory serves me correctly. He then tried to sell it back to this same board a short while later, and I believe it was $750,000. Well, before it was said and done, it was over $1 million.
Right.
And like you reiterated, he was told to come get that equipment. And my suggestion would be, and I would like the board to concur, that we ought to charge that bugger storage from the date of Aloya's last letter. Ask Mr. Cooney to draft the letter and demand it, or we're going to sell them for scrap.
Okay. Commissioner Lemko.
You know, I have a tendency to agree with you, other than the fact that we have used them. And the usage of them has helped keep the downriver a lot cleaner.
Right.
So, you know, trying to get into some sort of a match back and forth, point, counterpoint, I would just as soon say, you know, we probably aren't going to be using that anymore, so come and get them out of there. I don't think we should be looking at
And by the way, we're
purchasing.
not paying you anything, so
Yeah,
come
and
get
we're
it.
not paying anything.
I would think that Mr. Benda's approach seems appropriate.
Okay. Everybody, we have a consensus on that approach? All right.
Okay,
You
thanks.
have
I just
your-
wanted-
You have your direction.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is budget adjustments.
Let's just begun.
Presenting here two budget adjustments. The first one, that's page 4 in my document, that hopefully that agrees with yours, but we were using the brownfield revenues from the abandonment of Copper Ridge to reduce our use of fund balance. And the other reason for doing that was to make sure that we were within our 18% level of fund balance with the amount of fund balance that we're recommending in the 2013 budget. So that brings us in line with that parameter. And the second amendment is based on the RM&A meeting authorizing some equipment purchases for the prosecuting attorney's office, and that was covered within that budget. So it's just a line item transfer.
Okay, Commissioner Richardson?
He moved for approval. And
Okay.
I'll support it.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Gilman, seconded by Commissioner Richardson, to approve the budget adjustments as presented. Discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Henschel?
Yes.
Gilman?
Yes.
Fleece?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas?
Yep.
Richardson?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes, motion passes. Move on to claims.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Dean, does this mean that the held funds for the Copper Ridge site have been distributed to all of the taxing units now?
That is correct. We still have some funds that were received from Garfield Township that have not been distributed this year, but the funds that we were holding in the brownfield accounts have been distributed to the county, the other units, and Commission on Aging and the pavilions.
Thank you.
Okay, so you have any other comments on the claim summary?
Just to note that I did list one separately for Roy's General Store, and I have to admit that Commissioner Richardson had pointed out that I was not showing or reporting those claims separately, and that was my error. So I am including those from this point forward. There was one claim for $4.16 during the month of October.
So we'll need two motions.
Two motions.
All right, okay.
And if I can just quickly comment, Rob, I was concerned that nothing was being fixed at the Commission on Aging. I said, I haven't seen any of those. What's going on?
My error.
We didn't have any rain this summer. Nothing's getting mowed, so it's not breaking.
Let's get rich on it, will you?
Okay, we need let's have a motion on one of them.
Motion to approve.
Approve the
The first total would be the $19,141,513.92.
All right, is that your motion? All right, is there a second? All right. Motion by Lemkool, seconded by Commissioner Fleece to approve the claims of $19,141,513.92. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Gilman?
Yes.
Fleece?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Richardson?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes, motion passes. We need a motion for the Roy's General Store appropriation 416.
So moved.
I want to so bad. Mr. Chairman, I'd move we approve the claim for $4.16 to Roy's General Store.
Moved by Commissioner Gilman, seconded by Commissioner Fleece to approve
It's got to be a record.
$4.16, which probably would cost us $20.
$5.68 a year or so ago, so.
And that
it's
would
been
probably
there.
cost us, what, $20 to process?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what about the postage?
The postage. Okay.
Put it in my box.
Put it in your box. All right. We have a motion and a support to pay claims of Roy's General Store for $4.16. Roll call vote, so Commissioner Henschel can abstain.
Commissioner Fleece?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas?
Yep.
Richardson?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Henschel?
Abstain.
Gilman?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes, motion passes with one abstention. Does that conclude the administrator's report?
I'd like to ask one more
Yes.
thing. I was approached by Mr. Pat McGuire, the chairperson of the Traverse City Light and Power Board, asking that we assist them in finding a new executive director and conducting a nationwide search.
It's like the road commission.
So one of our commissioners mentioned to them that it just went swimmingly with the road commission, so they thought that was just a wonderful thing for them too. The only thing I'm concerned about is the timing and the timing and the time it takes to go through a national search.
They report to the city commission or body of the city commission, and they have their own personnel department?
Yes.
I mean, are we crossing hairs there?
Yes.
Well, we could turn our personnel director into a profit center for the county here pretty quickly.
That's all my only question is, are we crossing hairs with what the responsibility of the city human resource department is?
His remark was that their person doesn't have the national search experience.
All right, okay. Okay, Commissioner Richardson, you had your hand up?
Well, I was just going to comment that, interestingly enough, Light and Power has their own personnel person, but the city itself does not.
All right, if we want to put this on the agenda, we need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Well, did you have more comments on
Well,
that?
I was just wondering if you, I spoke with Jen Seaman about it. She has a lot to do, but she's willing, as all county employees are pretty willing to be cooperative in the community and do things to help out. So I just, if you want to take a motion on it, that's fine. I just wanted to get your feel.
You need a motion to get it on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we add this to our agenda for resource management and administration. I don't think it's something we have to make the decision on tonight, and I'd like to have opportunity to discuss with Jen about her workload. We all know she's going to take a small hiatus soon.
In March.
And, we probably should, really evaluate whether or not she has time. We all know that we have 15 labor contracts approximately that are going to expire at the end of 2013.
I don't think it's that many.
And, some of that might need to be addressed along the way.
But the strategy does need to be addressed.
Exactly.
Sorry.
We've got a lot on our plate for our Human Resources Director, and to loan her out to others at this point, I think we need to have some additional
All right, we have a
discussion.
motion by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Fleece, to send direction to staff to allow, to refer this to the RMA committee for next month. Discussion. Let's go with Lemko and then Henschel.
I think when we're starting to do this kind of stuff, we ought to be looking at compensation, not only for the county, but also for our resource director, because that is additional work. And sure, we're paying her for doing some of this stuff, but, I can remember that when we had our equalization director went out and was able to do work for other counties, that we paid them additional compensation, and or they did, and the person was able to receive it. And I really don't think it's fair that we start making motions here within our organization, within the commission, to burden more of our staff than what they already are, without some sort of a compensation on it. And I hope that, Dave, if you would make that happen, bring that back as part of our discussion as to what we would charge and what would we pay for the additional compensation.
Okay, Commissioner Henschel and then Commissioner Maxbauer.
Dave, how many hours did we bill the road commission?
65.
We're not done yet.
Okay, what are we at?
About 60 hours.
About 60 hours so far. So would you expect a similar search for Light and Power to be about the same? I also just want to comment from a philosophical standpoint, this kind of thing really does build community. It builds stronger relationships between our community, government bodies, and entities, and I really support it. And I think Jen does a great job, and it's really cool that we can get together with the road commissioner, Light and Power, and just build those relationships.
Yeah, I agree.
Certainly
Commissioner
good at
Maxbauer and then Commissioner Thomas.
Well, I just wanted to confess that I was the guilty party that talked to Pat McGuire. He called me up and said, who handled your search for your administrator? And I said, Jen. And then I said, by the way, she also did the search for the new road commission director. And I said, so far, I said, from what I'm hearing from commissioners, she's done an outstanding job. And so he was interested, and so I asked him to call Dave, which apparently he did. But I also understand Jen's condition and and perhaps a lack of time. I'm thinking we
For
had...
God's sake, she's pregnant, she's not ill.
We had
God.
four excellent HR people come to us voluntarily, free of charge, that work in the community or are retired in the community to take a look at our wage and salary study.
They're gone now.
Not all.
They've all sort of gone away and moved and...
Well,
done
Kay,
other
not
things.
all of them. Kay Saratelli is still here.
Yeah.
And I'm just suggesting perhaps we could provide those names of those individuals. I mean, a
Commissioner-
nationwide search pretty much can be done on a computer, too.
I know, we can
so.
address that at RMA.
All right.
Commissioner Thomas.
2 words, no way.
Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor to put this as an agenda item on RMA. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Wheelock?
Yes.
Thomas?
No.
Richardson?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Gilman?
Yeah.
Please?
Yeah.
Inman?
Yes. Motion passes with one nay.
Thank you.
All right. Does that conclude the administrator's report?
Yes.
We have no unfinished business. We'll move on to new business. The first item is the resolution that you have on your desk regarding the ad hoc committee meeting that was held on October 30th regarding appointments, and I will call on whoever the chairman was for that committee.
That would have been me.
Commissioner Max Bauer.
Yes, I would like to take these separately if we could, primarily because there's an error in one of the names on Commission on Aging.
All right.
But the other ones are correct.
Okay.
So I'll just go ahead and make the motion.
Go ahead.
I move to reappoint Peter Doran and Rodetta Herond to a 3-year term, January 1, 2013 through December 31st, 2015, to Parks and Rec.
Support. All right, moved by Commissioner Max Bauer, support by Commissioner Fleece to approve the Parks and Rec appointment of Dorn and Herond. Discussion? Commissioner Henschel?
I just want to comment, kind of at the end of our meeting, after we had agreed upon making this recommendation, I asked, do we have a conduit for the special needs community to give input to this board? We have a lot of representation of seniors on the Parks and Rec Board in different areas, but the fence issue, which we're going to talk about in a minute, it kind of brought out, maybe we need somebody from that community as well represented. So I guess I think in the future we should consider looking for someone in special needs or otherly abled community.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on the motion?
I agree.
All right. Okay. We have a motion on the floor for Dorn and Herond. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Gilman?
Yes.
Please?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Inman?
Yes. Motion passes. Second is Commission on Aging.
No, we're going to take that last. Central Dispatch Policy Board, I would move to reappoint Curtis Holliday to the 3-year term effective immediately through October 31st, 2015.
Second.
Support. Moved by Max Bauer.
Max Bauer.
Second by Henschel for the Central Dispatch Policy Board. That would be Curtis Holliday. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, I would move to appoint Heidi Sheppy, County Treasurer, to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority effective immediately to fill the remainder of the current term vacated by Bill Rokas, as well as for the 3-year term, January 1, 2013 through December 31st, 2015.
Second.
Support.
Moved by Max Bauer, seconded by Wheelock, to approve the appointment of Heidi Sheppy to the Brownfield Development Authority. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. All right, Beta.
Beta Board, I would move to reappoint Linda Wagner to the 3-year term effective immediately through October 31st, 2015.
Support.
Okay, moved by Max Bauer, seconded by Lemkool to appoint Linda Wagner to the Beta Board. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. All right. Now we move on to the Commission on Aging.
Yes. The Commission on Aging, the first name listed here is Jim McGee. That is incorrect.
Okay.
The ad hoc committee approved Jim Pasco.
Jim Pasco.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to have this pulled off and tabled so that the commissioners might be looking at the possibility of whether or not we want to downsize this board. It was recommended by one of the people that we interviewed that might be one of those things we might look at. And so rather than making these appointments at this time, I don't think they have to be made for this particular month, that I would like us to be able to sit down and discuss whether or not, and I don't know what the rules and regulations are as to how big that board has to be, and if there's any particular reason for them to be that size. So I would like us to have that kind of a discussion maybe at our next Human Services meeting to discuss whether or not we want to downsize this board and not make any appointments at this time.
All right, hang on, we'll just slow down a little bit. Bob, is there restrictions on the size by any kind of statute or interlocal agreement we have with the Commission on Aging?
I don't believe so, because this is entirely a commission created by the Board of Commissioners, not under any statute.
Okay. So, Commissioner Maxbauer, you're making the motion at this time for this recommendation, is that correct?
I made a motion to table.
No,
You made the motion to table. Is there support?
I'll support the table.
Okay, discussion. Table means you have to defer the item to, what we need is a motion to defer the item to like RMA.
That's public health and safety, actually.
He said public health and safety.
All right. So the motion is to defer it to public health and safety. Right. Okay, and there's a second. Okay. Discussion, Commissioner Flees.
Herb, I would disagree with you, and I heard the applicant loud and clear also. But rather than hurry up, get it done, I think that board has 15 people on it, and there will be more coming next year to get reappointed, and that would be a proper time to do what you're suggesting, and that would give the commission ample time to talk to the Commission on Aging Board, to Georgia Durga and so forth, and do it more timely rather than hurry up. You know, we just heard it yesterday, so.
Well, and that's why I was given some time and to build it, you know, I don't want to do it tonight, and that's why I wanted to have it brought up as a discussion so we know where we're going, and we may just come back and make these appointments, you know, after our discussion at our meeting, but then at least we've given administration and the Commission on Aging a direction that says this is something we're looking at, and so they can come back and be able to be prepared for any information that we might need.
All right, Commissioner Wheelock.
I guess the comment that I'm sorry, you finished?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Flees was not done yet.
Well, I still disagree with you, Herb. Yesterday, we as a committee made recommendations for several appointments, including these 4. And for us to say, whoop, we're going to change our mind now midstream, I don't agree with that at all.
I agree with that. Commissioner Wheelock.
I guess the comment that I would make, and the reason I'd like to have a discussion about this board, is I've been telling everyone for a year that we need to evaluate all of these boards because of the fact you are going from 9 commissioners to 7. We are simply not going to be able to get anything. As we hear from the community, we hear from the public, we hear from every form of government, they want smaller government. Well, smaller government doesn't mean keeping all of these boards and commissions that we have out there. You know, I don't know what the current number is. I went back and looked. When I was board chairman in 2007 and 8, we made county commissioner appointments to 136 boards. You know, when we go to 7 commissioners next year, between at that time we still had the liaison program in place, which you probably, some of you will remember I eliminated. But the fact is that we cannot expect 7 county commissioners to sit on anywhere near 130 boards. Yeah. And as we look at all of these boards, and we look at, tomorrow night, we're going to talk about the Resource Recovery Council. You know, they meet, how many times do they meet, how many members do they have? All of that comes with a cost. It comes to a cost, you know, even without talking about the per diem to the members. Putting the package together, putting the administration part, all of it comes with a cost. And we need to evaluate these services and these committees and how much it costs us to operate them.
Okay, we're going to go to Richardson, Gilman, and then Max Bauer.
Sonny, I couldn't agree with you more. We really need to review this and, you know, the number of boards we have and the things we assign people to. But in this particular instance, we advertised, we interviewed people, we brought them in, and, you know, a recommendation has been made, and then suddenly say, whoops, we're not sure we want to appoint you because we're not sure we like the size of the board, I think is really putting the cart before the horse. We need to have the discussion that you're talking about, but I don't think that, you know, that these appointments have to be held up while we have that discussion.
The appointments don't become effective till January 1 anyway.
Well, I understand that, but I would think that any changes we'd make would not happen within the next 2 months. I could be wrong, but it's just That's a little abrupt.
Okay, I believe it was Gilman that was next? Okay, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it would probably be most appropriate to approve these appointments and understand that they're going to be there for those terms, and then the next expiring terms, you start culling the size. But I think it is probably important that we do have the discussion as soon as possible so we can start planning that. But I think tonight we should probably approve these.
I agree. Okay, who else had their hand up? I'm sorry.
Chris, you too.
Chris, did you have?
No, I've pretty much heard
Okay, is everyone?
everything.
Well, the only comment I have is exactly where Commissioner Richardson's coming from, and Commissioner Gilman, is that we went through the advertising process. We went through the ad hoc committee process. You guys have gone through the selection process. We have a recommendation in front of us. The last thing we need to do is throw another surprise on the Commission on Aging without having a joint discussion.
For sure.
You know, we just throw enough curveballs at those folks that, you know, I don't want to have one more surprise bang up at our board without prior discussion with those folks, as even a professional courtesy. So I just soon make this appointment. We can discuss county board sizes on all of our boards at a later date. We can discuss before the end of the year or the first part of the year with a 7-member board, commissioner assignments. That would be the time to do that. But I just soon get this Commission on Aging appointment through tonight. So, any other discussion? So we have a motion. The motion on the floor right now is to hold off on this and refer it, not take action, and refer it to RMA. So if you agree with that, you would say yes. If you don't agree with it, you would say no. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Richardson?
No.
Max Bauer?
No.
Lemko?
Yes.
Henschel?
No.
Gilman?
No.
Fleece?
No.
Wheelock?
No.
Thomas?
Nope.
Inman?
No. Motion fails. Excuse me, motion fails, 1-8.
Right.
Okay. Now we need another motion. Commissioner Fleece.
I would move that we, per the recommendation of the subcommittee, appoint or reappoint Jim Pasco, Rodetta Herron, Max Binkley, and Karen Rennie to 3-year term, January 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2015.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Fleece, second by Commissioner Henschel, to approve the Commission on Aging appointments with the Pasco, Herron, Binkley, and Rennie. Discussion. Commissioner Max Bauer.
Looking from too far down the row.
Commissioner Max Bauer.
I will be supporting this motion, but I'm going to be doing it with a great deal of sadness. I did speak with Jim McGee today. He is our chair this year at Commission on Aging. He was to be our treasurer next year at Commission on Aging. Jim has given his time, his money, his heart into this organization. He was instrumental in passing the recent 2 millages that the Commission on Aging was able to pass. He worked tirelessly for that. He has also led the charge to look at bidding services, such as home chore. And that, I think, needs to be explored further. And without him on the Commission on Aging board, I'm not sure that, well, I believe his shoes are going to be extremely difficult to fill. But I respect the committee's decision, and so I will be supporting it.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion on the floor? Commissioner Henschel.
I'll just say, this was one of the hardest decisions. You know, we had so many good applicants this year. You know, the parks one, we had 10 people for 2 spots. It was just, I mean, very tough decisions. The opinion, I think, my perception of the committee is Jim McGee is a stellar member of that board. It was just, you know, we looked at, you know, the pluses and minuses, everybody tried to make the best decision. It was not in my opinion, a negative reflection on Jim at all. We just did the best we could to put together the best possible board for our community.
All right, okay. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Flees?
I would concur with Commissioner Hensel and Max Farr.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Okay, motion on the floor to approve as presented, Pasco, Aaron, Binkley, and Rennie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Maxbauer. Second item is the item you have on your table under resolution in support of Senate Bill 1020. I believe this was directed to staff to put together some information regarding this and bring it back to us at a previous meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct, yeah. Right.
So what is the pleasure of the board? Commissioner Flees?
I would make a motion that we adopt Resolution 1020.
Resolution in support of Senate Bill 1020. Okay, Commissioner, motion by Flees, seconded by Thomas.
Yeah,
Discussion?
yes,
Yes.
there's a typo in it.
Okay.
The second line down. Environmental Protection Act to allow, that should be an
Yes.
eligible county rather than and.
Okay, all right, okay, all right. We'll agree to that correction. Any other comments or questions on the motion?
A little bit of English.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. Thank you. Next item?
Larry,
Yes.
could you, since anyone watching has no idea what we just did,
Okay.
could you at least very briefly say what the...
Yeah, this was a resolution, I believe, that was from a previous county that we wanted to get some more information on as either whether we're going to support or not support it, and send a copy to our state representatives and MAC and whoever is on the list for resolutions, administrative office. But this is a Senate bill that would amend Part 811 of the Natural Resources Environmental Protection Act to allow an eligible county to adopt an ordinance authorizing operations of ORVs on maintained portions of one or more highways located within the county.
Well, what it addresses specifically is the M highways.
Right.
For example, M37 and so forth, the state highways, which would allow ingress and egress into a village or a small city, because for gas, food, lodging, because right now, there's places in our county and particularly on the east side of the state where they have a lot of that type activity and they're prohibited by state law from using an M highway. So that's, and they're going to try a pilot program for the amounts to.
All right.
This is both an environmental issue as well as an economic issue because it promotes tourism, but also if someone's got a golf cart in the stores a block down the road, they can use the state highway where right now they can't.
Right. Okay. So that's an explanation for the folks in the audience and the folks here. Now we will move on to the third item, which is, as you know, we adopt our following year's budget at the October final board meeting of the month of the previous year. You have in front of you a summary of the proposed budget and all the information that's been given to you by Administrator Benda by resolution form, calling for a $37,774,239 revenue and expenditure budget. You have that on your desk. And we've already had a public hearing on it, so we need to take some action on this evening. So I will call on Commissioner Lemkool.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the proposed budget that was presented by our administrator.
Do you need any...
Including the resolution.
Do you need specific language in the motion to adopt the resolution?
It's on.
Yes, well, to
You need the title?
adopt the 2013 General Appropriations Resolution.
Resolution.
That-
It's
and
the
that'll-
whole
And the budget.
resolution.
All right, okay. Okay, it's moved by Lemkool, seconded by Richardson. Discussion. Richardson, Commissioner Richardson.
I would like to offer an amendment to to add a $20,000 appropriation from the Senior Center Fund to support the Meals on Wheels program. I have heard repeatedly from the Commission on Aging that they are absolutely in support of Meals on Wheels, and I believe that. And what they have suggested is that, they don't think they have the money. So I did not have this information ready at the meeting 2 weeks ago when I first proposed paying this money out of the general COA millage. So what I'm suggesting rather is that we pay it out of the senior center millage, which quite frankly is much flusher with cash than the COA general fund is. And if I can just point out a couple things. Last year, 2011 was the first year that the millage was levied for the senior center. And at the end of 2011, with a millage of about $420,000 in revenue, they ended the year 2011 with, let me find the number here to make sure I get it right.
Bless you.
Almost $227,000 in their fund. So then for 2012, they have, as of October 22nd, they've generated revenues of $485,000, but only expenditures of $245,000. So I doubt that they'll even exceed $300,000 in expenditures for 2012 when they already have $485,000 in revenues. So there's obviously plenty of money, and there's also a very good connection because the Meals on Wheels congregate portion of the program is offered in 3 of our senior centers in the county. At the senior center downtown, where it has been historically for a very long time, including before this was a county program, when the senior center was still a city program. And further, the Meals on Wheels has started offering congregate meals at both Kingsley and Interlochen. They're only offering them 1 day a week, but interestingly enough, the Senior Center Network has been requesting the Community Action Agency to expand those meal sites to offer more days per week because they feel they've been so successful. So to me, it's a good fit, and it sort of shows that even though the program is being run by the Community Action Agency, it really is a Commission on Aging program, and I would hope that we could...
So we have, okay, so you're offering an amendment to the motion on the floor.
I'll support the amendment.
And we have a second by Commissioner Fleece. So any discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Maxbauer and Commissioner Gilman.
My preference would be to ask the Commission on Aging Board to look at this first. This was not proposed last time. It was proposed taking it out of in-home services, and I do appreciate the fact that you're looking elsewhere, because right now in-home services has a wait list of over 600 clients. We have, in in-home services, we have insufficient resources right now. There are no wait lists for Meals on Wheels, and why you would want to take funds from an organization with insufficient funds and give it to an organization that has sufficient funds, I don't know. So I am extremely pleased that you are looking elsewhere. However, I do believe that the correct process, the correct procedure, is to ask the Commission on Aging to look at the senior center budget and come back to this board with a recommendation for a budget adjustment. So for that reason, I will not be supporting this motion. And I want to let everyone know as well, there are Commission on Aging board members who are concerned about steady funding for Meals on Wheels. And we have been talking about the possibility of working with Meals on Wheels, presenting a small millage to provide that stable funding for Meals on Wheels. We don't know if that's possible. And it may not be, but I'm saying, what I'm trying to convey is the Commission on Aging Board is committed to serving seniors in this county. But I would really appreciate it if we could bring it to the Commission on Aging Board first.
Okay, Commissioner Gilman.
A couple things. Could you clarify your amendment, please, just so I understand fully what you're...
My amendment is to add to the budget as presented a $20,000 appropriation to come from the Senior Center Fund, the Senior Center millage, to the Community Action Agency for the purpose of helping to fund the Meals on Wheels program.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Fleece.
You know, I have to agree with Commissioner Richardson, obviously, but after listening to Mr. Savage tonight talk, Monday, gentleman I went to school with, same class, worked 37 years at Consumers Power. He lost his whole pension through some finagling with the stock market, unbeknownst to him. And at first I thought he was joking. He and his wife were there to purchase a bar and chain for their chainsaw so they could cut wood so they'd have heat. He's applied all over the place for assistance, and only to find out that you got to do an asset deal, and he really doesn't have that many assets. But his bridge card, which I'm not too familiar with that and how it works, if it's weekly or monthly, but they had cut that to $32, and he says, you know, Larry, I don't have money to eat on this week. And let me tell you something. What Jim Savage said tonight about seniors out there worrying over a meal when the senior citizen millage, which the majority of them, or all of them, voted for, I think for us to be worried about ruffling somebody's feathers, I think we need to do the action tonight, put the $20,000 there, so the seniors don't have to worry.
Okay, let's go to Commissioner Richardson and then Gilman again.
Just a couple of points. I mean, we were talking about this $20,000. Now, of course, the Community Action Agency got $20,000 from the Commission on Aging this year.
Yes,
we're talking about next year's budget. Even with the $20,000, the Community Action Agency's ability to run the Meals on Wheels program is strained because costs have gone up and, donations and so forth have gone down. So, I mean, the $20,000 is critical. It's not the end-all and the be-all by any means. But the other thing is that, and the reason I want to do this tonight, first of all, I would like to point out that this is a copy of the Commission on Aging rules, bylaws. In the sentence here under Finances and Budget, it says, the final budget shall be approved by the Grand Traverse County Commission. The other reason is that the Community Action Agency operates on the federal fiscal year, which is to say they operate from October 1st to September 30th. So we are already a month into their year. They need to know about the $20,000 so they can plan appropriately for the programs they're providing. And yes, there's not a wait list now, but without this $20,000, there will be a wait list very, very quickly.
Okay, Commissioner.
I mean, it may start tomorrow. So again, we need to do this now. I don't think it hurts the Commission on Aging, and then,
Okay. I just want to clarify, and then I want to follow up.
Yes.
Taking it from the Senior Center millage, that money right now is what the city used to collect, and then we get it now, and it goes to county.
Countywide.
No, that's a countywide millage.
it's a new millage that was
It's the
passed
new,
2
okay,
years
so it's the
ago.
new one, so we could get
It's
the
the
Senior
new
Center.
one,
It was the
right.
new one that's, okay. But that, otherwise, that's managed by the Commission on Aging otherwise, or that's just something that we have to fund the facilities?
No, it's run, it's managed by the Commission on Aging.
It is managed, so it's still under their purview. And then, so it goes back to whether or not we're going to micromanage then this particular body that has been charged with these tasks, the one we just put 4 people back onto. I'll tell you, I mean, again, I think there's a purpose, there's certainly a purpose for oversight by the county board. If it's to stop abuses, it's to, graft, overreaches, like trying to take over a private organization, for example. I don't think it's to make these kind of decisions. I think, we send back a concern, we say, there are enough people who are concerned, you might take a second look at this, but we can't, I don't want to be playing that part where we're going to micromanage by shuffling around their monies in some other ways. So I'm going to have to decline on this particular amendment myself.
All right, hands up. Do we have any more? Commissioner Fleece and then Rick Henschel, and I can speak at the end whenever it ends.
Ralph Saffredini, the treasurer, spoke earlier tonight, is sitting still in the audience. And Ralph made it pretty clear. I know Ralph really well. In fact, we used to work on budgets. And when Ralph says we had to make the cuts, and they did the best job they could, they made the cuts that they thought was the most appropriate. So, Jason, I would disagree with you that perhaps we can help them out by taking the burden off their shoulders. I got big shoulders. I'm willing to take $20,000 from the senior citizen millage to put into the Meals on Wheels, so we don't have senior citizens worrying about where the next meal's coming from. Particularly the ones, like somebody else spoke earlier tonight, two sisters, 92 and 94, and one's blind. Makes a big difference, and you could tell those people, some of them could hardly talk because they were so emotional.
I had a question. I've got Rich. If you're done, I got Henschel and then you. Commissioner Henschel.
I'll defer.
Commissioner Maxbauer.
I would absolutely support taking $20,000 out of the general fund.
Are you done?
Yeah. And one more question. Mr. Cooney, with the millage language that was passed, can we do this?
I believe that you can because it was the same statute as the Commission on Aging millage. So.
All right.
Right. Okay, Commissioner Richardson and then Munko.
In 2010, we passed 2 millages. We passed the renewal, for the Commission on Aging. We passed the Commission on Aging renewal. It passed 4-1. Mm-hmm. 4 to 1 in a year that was probably, I would say the general public was probably about as anti-tax as they've ever been that I can remember, okay? We did that at the August primary. And then at the general election. And the reason they were separated is because the Commission on Aging didn't want to have the new millage for the senior center on the ballot at the same time as the renewal, because they didn't want to take any chances of renewal. I thought that was a good idea, that was great. So then at the general election, I think a new millage to establish the senior center network passed with somewhere around 67 or 68% of the vote. These millages are for the support of senior citizens, okay? They're a dedicated millage. I mean, when you talked about, well, maybe we could come up with another millage. You don't need to come up with another millage. You have 2 millages right now with enough money to fund this program. In fact, you could probably fund it greater than you will. If I could just very quickly, this is what the millage, this is the senior center millage I'm reading for now. It says to provide funding for the operation of senior centers directed toward the improvement of the social, legal, health, educational, emotional, nutritional, recreational, and again, I'd say nutritional, or mobility status of individuals 60 years of age or older. Why are you opposed to spending that money on Meals on Wheels?
Oh, I'm not.
It's when it's specifically for that purpose. I mean, when you're already accumulating a rather large fund balance in the senior center fund, why is it more important to accumulate that fund balance than it is to spend this money on Meals on Wheels, which is a program that everybody obviously appraises is necessary. I just don't understand. I don't understand what the point is.
All right, okay. Commissioner Gilman, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm just, what's the structural deficit of the COA right now? What is the deficit? What are the,
Are you talking about what our...
Commission on Aging, what is the structural deficit?
We have a fund balance left of about $800,000 on...
But you're
with
taking from
in-home
the fund
services.
balance to meet the budget, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What are you
Georgia?
taking?
I believe it was...
Actually, the fund balance at the end of 2011 for the COA general fund was 1.3 million. The 800,000 is what you're projecting it to be at the end of this year. I think it'll actually be quite a bit higher than that, because I don't think you're not going to spend $500,000 of that fund balance this year.
In-home services fund balance, which is put in the beginning of the year, it's not changed for the full year. So even if we use fund balance, it's not reflected until 2013. So at the beginning of 2012, we had $1,283,240. Senior Center Network has a fund balance of $226,815. Same story, no fund balance will be used. Even though we've spent it, it won't be reflected until next year. The Senior Center also has, because the way the deal was worked, we took over operation of them in July 2011. So the last 6 months of the millage of the Senior Center, there will be no revenue. So that's why they're building up their fund balance to fund that last 6 months. Because the city only funded the first 6 months of last year, the millage took over the last 6 months. So unless we build up a 6-month fund balance to run that Senior Center, there will be no revenue to do that, other than the fees that she generates. The fund balance...
Excuse me, Georgia, can I ask you, what do you mean by that? You won't be building up a fund balance?
The Senior Center, the agreement was that we would take over Operation Senior Center July 1st of last year.
Right.
The city funded up until then.
Right.
The millage took over. But the millage is for 6 years, but it's going to be 6.5 years, so we have to fund that other half year through that millage, which is why we're building that up to fund that other half year.
You have $485,000 in revenue so far this year, and only $245,000 in expenditures, even though you budgeted much more than that.
254, 124 in expenditures, 485, 884. However, she will not be getting much more revenue. All of our millage revenue is collected in the beginning of the year. And in fact, we'll be experiencing reductions because of the tax tribunals, and we've been paying those back like crazy. Same with in-home services. I agree, though. I mean, I think the expenditures are lower than I think it's going to come out ahead, but we do have to build up that fund balance to, fund that last half a year, or they're going to close or something. So that's why she's been building that up.
I would just like you to let the Commission on Aging Board take a look at this. That's all.
Well, I'm going to pass a budget tonight. I'm going to try as hard as I can to put this $20,000 back.
Commissioner Lomco.
I'm really having a conflict on this, because I really believe the Commission on Aging is listening to us and hearing what we got to say. But the other problem I have is that 2 weeks ago, they were told, you got a problem. And I've not heard one thing from the Commission on Aging saying, we will take care of this. And we got some seniors out there who are worried. And we have created an environment for the seniors to be worried about whether or not they're going to be able to receive their services. We've got a PR problem. We've stuck it on us that we've got to be able to figure out how to resolve this issue as soon as possible. And I'm concerned that the Commission on Aging hasn't come out and said, you are your elected officials, you hear the community, they're talking, they're telling you, we have to get funding for Meals on Wheels. That's what we're hearing as elected officials. We're all hearing it. Commission on Aging has not directed either. They come out either publicly, they've only come out and said, we're going to look at it. They haven't said, we're going to do it. but we need to do something.
Herb,
So-
we haven't met.
Well, but
You
yet...
want us to have an emergency meeting?
Maybe you need, maybe,
sorry.
there was an emergency situation, maybe you should have had a board meeting to be able to look at it and determine what should be done. So, I don't want to vote for this, but yet I don't want to delay an issue because the seniors want to have somebody take care of it.
Okay. Commissioner Gilman, and then I think I got a remark.
I would almost support the 20,000 out of our general fund as well, except we have, already we're taking 625,000 out of our general fund budget. We're planning on an equal keel taxing, so we're kind of in a situation where we're not really able to nickel and dime ourselves into these other issues. I don't like the micromanaging. I don't think it's appropriate. And we talk about taxes, and there are reasons people have to make decisions on, whether they're taking their medicine or eating. But these folks at the Commission on Aging, they have to make those decisions too, whether they get, appropriate care, in-home care, or whether they based on some sad stories, and I'm not belittling those sad stories because there are plenty of them to go around, I'll tell you. But they have to make those decisions, and they're dealing with them directly. And we're talking about people who are faced with the aging population we have in Grand Traverse County every single day when we come here and we meet once a week and then we communicate by email otherwise. I can't support this. I think we need to, maybe as a society, look at the other things that hurt our seniors, the fixed costs going up, fuel costs going up because we have bad energy policy or bad environmental policy that drives our costs up. We have bad tax policy. We have ever-increasing millages, for example, and I'll throw that in there. People are having a hard time making it on fixed incomes, and our seniors, that is really the crux of it. You only make so much, it's not growing, but the costs and everything else are. This $20,000 is not a cure-all, nor is it a fix, and frankly, it's bad precedent, and it's a bad thing to do to an agency that's supposed to handle this stuff for us. That's all.
All right.
You can go first, or I'll go ahead.
All right. Coming into this meeting, I just my personal opinion on this thing is that I would have preferred the Commission on Aging board to make the decision to fund this. I think that when they went out and heavily, and the citizens that helped them with information and that kind of thing support not only a renewal millage, but if I'm not mistaken, it was a Headley rollback as well. So that was increased income. And then they had to come back with a reported shortfall, and then we agreed to allow them to increase fees. Now we're, I think that, we've gotten to the point where, publicly, the two boards have painted themselves in a corner, and it's probably the most publicly, for public relations purposes, number one, but number two, probably the most focused and most known program among seniors is the Meals on Wheels. It's been around, as far as I know, and each community has a program. Just about every community has one. How it's funded, I don't know, but I think to go ask the public for a renewal of the millage and then a Headley rollback, which was an increase, and then come back for fee increases. And to take this particular program and cut it, which is probably the most popular program and probably about publicly well-known program, I think coming into this board meeting, it was going to be my position, either we convince the Commission on Aging to fund it, we find another revenue source, which I like Commissioner Richardson's suggestion about the Senior Center millage fund, because we're really not, in my viewpoint, micromanaging the Commission on Aging if we're going for another source than the Commission on Aging millage. Or I was just willing, if that was to go down, to fund it out of our contingency fund, and when the, if revenues were going to indeed go where Commissioner Richardson said they thought they were going to go, we would request that the Commission on Aging reimburse us back that money. But I will support the amended motion on the floor. I think it's a good compromise, and I think we all can leave this room knowing we hopefully have done the right thing for the public. Commissioner Henschel.
My aunt's a senior, and she goes to the senior center and plays. I think it's Zumba. It's like it enhances her life. It's athletic. It's exercise, but I don't think that's near as enhancing as feeding a hungry person. So I think we need to have that perspective. So I think it's an innovative idea that we should really look at our mission of enhancing seniors' lives, but also letting them live autonomously, letting them stay in their own homes through those programs. So it's a commendable suggestion. It's innovative. I like that. I would really be interested to let the Commission on Aging take that idea and talk about it and come back to us very soon. I don't think this issue is as urgent as the media has hyped it up to be due to a political climate. There's an election coming up. And I don't know that Ross intended that just because he's running, but it just seems like this, okay, we got to get this right now because, next week we're voting and we got to have those senior votes. I just feel like it's kind of the climate coming up. We can set a budget tonight and amend it next week, next month, and 2 months before the end of the year. So I don't feel like there's an impending doom that we have to make this call, and I feel like we're short-circuiting the system with our COA board. If they do fail to do something and come up with something, maybe we'll have to, but I don't think we're quite there yet. That's my opinion. So I do not support the motion.
Okay, are we ready to vote on this amendment?
I hope so.
We're voting on the amendment.
Okay, the motion on the floor, and it's an amended motion. We have a motion on the floor.
It's just the amendment.
Just the amendment.
I understand that. We have a motion on the floor. Now it's been amended by Commissioner Richardson, seconded by Commissioner Fleece, to expend $20,000 of the senior center fund amount allocated to Meals on Wheels. So, with that, a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Max Bauer?
No.
Lemkool?
No. No.
Henschel?
No.
Gilman?
No.
Fleece?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Richardson?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes. Motion passes 5-4. Okay, now we have a motion. Now that's part of the motion for the budget. We have a motion on the floor to adopt the budget as presented by the county administrator in the general appropriation
And then
line,
now it will be
with
with
the
you.
addition of the $20,000 senior center fund amendment. Now we need a vote. Well, we have discussion now on the new motion, and I'll go with Commissioner Gilman.
I've got a few things. Yeah. The Twin Lakes had a budgeted revenue of $46,000, to which it's reached $30,000 so far this year. It has, between facilities and employee costs, of over $100,000. We're suffering between a $54,000 and a $70,000 loss on the Twin Lakes facility, just by operating it. Now, obviously, we can't just shut it down because we're still going to have maintenance costs and what have you. But I think we need to take a look at that seriously. And again, as I recommended prior in another year, is that we need to actually look at, and this is not going to stop me from voting for the budget, but I'm just going to say that this has to be looked at. We can contract it out. People would pay us to live there and take care of the place, and we would not suffer a loss. And I know that for a fact. I mean, you take a look at people who want waterfront property. Who wouldn't want to live in a cabin on the lake? So I'd really like this board, and I'm gone in 2 months. Beyond that, I'd like this board to seriously consider how it manages its park properties. Again, I don't want to mess with the parks operation itself, but as assets of the county, I think it's very necessary. There is one other thing that I'd like to do, though, and I I would take a second, and if I don't get a second, that's the way it goes. But I'd like to have this, I'd like to make an amendment to the budget that we eliminate the Planning and Development Department from the budget. That would save us $217,000 towards that $625,000 we're taking out. Unless somebody can convince me with some metrics that it provides real value to this county, beyond, I mean, there are planning circumstances, but show me the metrics, show me what value it brings. And if we have to contract out on occasion, that's fine. There are going to be situations where developers come and they want to deal with us, or they want to deal with the townships, or they want to work, through the county. They can pay the fees for the planners. But why should we be carrying the $217,000 a year burden, as well as all the technical support underneath?
Commissioner Gilman has made a motion to not fund the Planning Commission and Planning Department. Does anybody wish to support the motion?
I'll support it for discussion.
Okay, motion by Gilman, seconded by Fleece. Is there discussion on the amended motion for the budget? I do, if nobody else has. Commissioner Wheelock and then Commissioner Richardson.
Well, I truly believe the coordination of planning is an essential service that Grand Traverse County provides to citizens of all of the townships, the villages, and the city. I firmly believe that. If you have any question about that, I recommend that you attend the annual Planning Awards dinner tomorrow night and talk and hear about the development and the projects that have been undertaken, even in these tough economical times in Grand Traverse County, because of the way we coordinate our services and we plan for each other.
Okay, Commissioner Richardson.
I just had a question. Is the I don't know if you can answer it, but the $217,000, is that the entire planning and development budget, or is that just the part that's funded with general revenue?
That's the general fund revenue that will
General
support
fund
the
revenue.
staff and...
Because more of that department is funded through brownfield and so forth?
Correct.
It's separate.
Okay, if nobody else has a comment.
And the only other thing I'd like to add is when we talk about what is an essential service, again, show me the metrics. Show me something that reveals the value. Say, show up tomorrow at the planning convention. Well, the planning convention's where they get to pat each other in the backs and say how good planners they are. We had, in this county, we have not always had a planning department. So, it went along swimmingly for some time without a planning department for several years. This is a recent
I'd like to
development.
respond to that.
Yeah.
I will tell you that we had the Planning Commission, we had a planning department, which we contracted with T.C. Tallis and Matt Skeels to run the department until the board decided whether they were going to hire a planner or not. And we heard loud and clear from the public, the community, community leaders, all the townships, the city, the villages. They wanted us to hire a county planner, and we went out and we got the best one. And I'll tell you what, he's done a bang-up job. I'm real proud of that department. They've coordinated very well with the city, the villages, and the townships, and along with the coordination of brownfield and economic development. We have the model in the state, and we work really well. We don't go out and promote people's personal property rights or anything like that. We're just a coordinating effort, and we've done one heck of a job in terms of assisting our partners out there that do zoning and planning for, whatever needs they have in terms of training and feedback and coordination. And be honest with you, this is one of the most outrageous motions I've heard in 20 years.
I'll tell you again, then you're asking, but the thing is, you're saying it's an outrageous motion, but you cannot provide specific advantages, specific value. There are no metrics that you bring with it. Mr. Chairman, I would argue that there are way too many sacred cows within our budget, that we have to go with a $625,000 structural deficit, and that's even planning on no reduction in cost or in tax revenue. This is something that, for the life of me, I can't. I called a couple people today, I said, play devil's advocate with me. Tell me why the planning department exists, why it should be on the budget, and why it should cost us $200,000 a year. I couldn't get anybody who had an answer, and I'm still not hearing it.
Okay.
But again, I'm going to go with the vote of the board, but again, it's not outrageous.
Well, it depends what your viewpoint is. Commissioner Thomas?
No way I could vote for this being such a surprise.
Right. Okay, anybody other comments? All right, we have a motion on the floor and support to eliminate or remove the County Planning Commission and the Planning Department from the budget. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Wheelock?
No.
Fleece?
No.
Max Bauer?
No.
Thomas?
No.
Richardson?
No.
Lemko?
No.
Henschel?
No.
Gilman?
Yes.
Inman?
No. Motion fails.
I'd like to
Okay.
propose another amendment, please. Remove T.C. Tallis from the budget, please, 16,500.
I got the same discussion on that one.
That's another one. Too much of a surprise, I don't know.
Well, the budget is a surprise. I mean, frankly, we've had to rush this budget. I just got this book a week and a half ago.
Does he have a second yet?
No. Does anybody want to support his motion to eliminate T.C. Tallis funding?
I'll support it.
All right. All right, motion by Gilman, seconded by Max Bauer to remove T.C. Tallis funding. Discussion. Well, I have something.
Annually, we have this discussion about the value of T.C. Tallis being a regional planning organization which allows us to coordinate planning between Grand Traverse County and the 6 surrounding counties. You know, we can have this discussion, and I'm sure that we will continue to have this discussion annually as part of our budget, but we have continued to fund that organization because the majority of us felt it had value.
I agree with you. Commissioner Fleece.
Well, the original reason that Tallis was set up, and that this board supported it, was due to the availability of federal funds when our population reached a certain level. And it still hasn't. So consequently, you've got T.C. Tallis that's kind of an orphan child out there, if you will. For what it was supposed to accomplish or receive the funds, it never has. It was supposed to be a conduit for the transfer of the funds.
Yeah, but it does still receive federal funding for regional projects in our area.
It started out as federal highway funds.
Yeah, and they work really closely with the Road Commission on federal money and highway projects. There's a conduit for that. Commissioner Richardson.
And since I am your T.C. Tallis representative, yeah, it is still mostly federal money, which comes through the Michigan Department of Transportation. But actually, T.C. Tallis, the administration of T.C. Tallis has been really absorbed into the Northern Michigan Council of Governments. And in the process, our annual dues have actually gone down. It's cheaper, and yet we're getting more bang for our buck. MCOG is a Act 51 agency, which means they can receive direct funding for road projects and so forth. And this is still in process, but in time I would not be surprised if we were not even asked to support, T.C. Tallis at all. I mean, that basically it becomes there will still be a board advising, but it's a function of MCOG.
Yeah, I just want to make a clarification from the comment is that the Northwest Michigan Council of Governments agreed to give them some complimentary or low-cost administrative opportunities in housing them and some administrative support because of their function. T.C. Tallis has their own separate funding. They have their own separate governing board. And the Council of Governments does not control, manage, or operate T.C. Tallis. I want to make that clear to everybody.
No, I'm sorry. I did not leave to me that.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to leave that impression. They do, however, provide much better administrative support
there you go.
than it's had in the past.
Yep. All right. Any other comments or questions before we go through this motion? Commissioner Henschel.
Just for sake of discussion, Ross, what has the county gotten in value for this last year's contribution? What has TC Talus done in the last year?
Well, it continues to be the, the clearinghouse, if you will, for, transportation planning and, discussion on a regional basis.
And you might want to mention the full membership. I mean, this is just not Grand Traverse. This is a partnership.
Oh,
that
no,
we
no,
have.
it's, the school district is represented, Leelanau County Road Commission is represented, Grand Traverse Band is represented, the Airport Commission is represented. This is a
chamber,
a general, the Chamber of Commerce is represented. In fact, it's the chamber representative who's currently the chair.
So-
My neighbor Evan Smith.
Projects? Are we just having coffee? What?
No, they're
Well,
coordinated training.
we haven't, we do not have the funding to fund projects. What we do is discuss projects and, engage in planning and overall direction.
And we contribute a lower amount than we have in previous years.
Yes, we do.
What have we planned in the last year?
They're going
That's what I'm getting at, is the
TC
value.
Talus will be presenting a modeling program for the transportation for our community, and that's coming out shortly. And they're the ones that get that information.
Yeah,
But you know,
they're doing that.
They, in all the years of their existence, have never had any power or authority, so to speak. They're merely suggestive. And county planning is really the same thing. It's a toothless dog. They coordinate with all the townships, maybe to come up with a county master plan and so forth. But really, if a township is off on a limb, county planning can't do anything about it.
That's true.
And, when you start looking at the dollars expended, Talus, Jason's right. When times were good, you could afford all that. And it was kind of pie in the sky, in my opinion. Well, the skies kind of came down a little bit, May have to think about it in the future years.
Just a comment that there isn't a single member of TC Talus having this conversation. I mean, they're fully supportive of Talus, what they've done, what they plan on doing. Like Herb said, they're coming out with their strategic plan and their strategic direction process. I think, for the amount of money and the contribution we're giving compared to everybody else on that membership board, we should be a contributing member.
Well, it's like John in the planning department. I think John is a very valuable county employee. I think John has done an excellent job. And it's not about personalities, it's about functions and the money for the function. It's like Mr. Cooney, who's going to be the prosecutor. After January, we say, well, Bob, we'd like this. And a month later, we say, Bob, we'd like this. And look at the money we're spending. Or there sits the sheriff. He's got 11 million, Geez, what's going on with our roads here, Sheriff? Or why are the crooks running rampant? Well, we're going to get our bang for the buck from Mr. Cooney, I'm sure, and from the sheriff, I'm sure. So but that's what it's about. It's not about personalities. I think John does an excellent job, and nothing against what's his name there in TC Talus.
Skills in the board,
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have a question, though.
Yes.
If, for example, we didn't have $625,000 to take out of our general fund, would that be a point where you would say, okay, we can't do TC Talus or we can't do the Planning Commission?
I'm not going to get into that discussion right now because it's available. I mean, it's a moot point right now.
Well,
I mean, we're talking about this budget. We have a balanced budget.
The point is, we're trying not to get there. We're trying to take that to the point.
We understand that, but that was a direction that we all agreed to fundamentally, that as we begin next year with the 7 board member, we're going to move into a strategic planning process on discussing with the administrator, with his strategic plan in his department, how we go about making structural changes within the Grand Traverse County operations and revenues and expenditures. That's a discussion we're going to have beginning next year. We're not going to have it at this board meeting.
I should also note, we are looking at I was looking at some of the facilities budgeting, and there are some repairs, and we're talking about streets and roads. Well, let's talk about our parking lots. We have asphalt repair that's being put off for the time being. It's not the greatest expense, but unfortunately, we've had to to take it away, and we're talking about our facilities, our parking lot out front, for example, that needs some renovation or some repair, and then we're going to put money into these things that don't produce any obvious, have any obvious product. So I just, before we take our vote, I'd just like to make that point.
Okay. You all set? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to discontinue the TC Talus funding. If you disagree with it, you vote no. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Fleece?
No.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Thomas?
No.
Richardson?
No.
Lemko?
No.
Henschel?
No.
Gilman?
Yes.
Wheelock?
No.
Inman?
No. Motion fails.
Got another one.
How many you got?
There's
100?
No, this one, and I've got one other one maybe after that.
Okay, all right.
Hey, I'm going to be out of here if you don't hurry up.
One less vote to fight.
This is tiresome.
There's $50,000 set aside. Now, we're all aware of the issues with regard to our Brown Bridge Dam accident up the road. We now have a dead stream. Don't say I didn't warn anybody. And I've fought every step of the way to try to keep this from moving forward. I've fought our participation, our money spent on these implementation team expenses. There's $50,000 in line item, or in our Department 978, that is the facilities budget, that is budgeted for the implementation team. I think it's a good time to stop right there. And I don't think we should be participating in planning the removal of any more dams until we figure out what happened and what they're going to do to fix our river.
Okay,
So I'm making that motion to take that $50,000 out of the budget that's scheduled for the...
Okay, is there support for that motion?
team.
Hearing none, motion fails.
I suppose I'll just leave the pool alone today.
Okay, we have a standing motion on the floor to approve the budget and the appropriations for 2013. As you know, the original motion was $37,774,239, and we've added $20,000 for the appropriation of the senior center fund to Meals on Wheels. That is the current motion on the floor. Commissioner Max Bauer.
I have a question for Dave. Dave, as you know, the Parks Board did not approve the budget that you presented. They made a recommendation for a change. Are we tonight approving the Parks Board's recommended change budget or the regular budget?
You're approving the budget that was submitted originally back in June, and there's some discussion of that in the budget letter. We were aware that there were changes coming forward from the Parks Board. We were just waiting for them to get that done. I imagine they'll be bringing that to you probably at the next board meeting.
Okay.
And I believe that what their changes will be within their appropriation that's set into the general fund.
Yes.
And it might even actually save some money.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any further comments? Commissioner Henschel.
Dave, I had mentioned a motion that was passed by this board regarding a technology reimbursement that was supposed to be supposed to be addressed along with the budget this year. Has anything happened on the issue I had mentioned earlier in a previous meeting?
I hope I have this right. The issue that you mentioned previously
was the technology.
Was an option for commissioners to have.
Yeah. And this board said it will be addressed during this budget process. We're about to vote on this budget process, and I haven't heard one.
That is not addressed in this budget. However,
we have the contingency
if that's what the board wants to do, there is funding in the Board of Commissioners budget to do it. Just,
and we have,
it's not specifically identified for that purpose right now.
We have $100,000 in the contingency.
Not only that, but you have money in the Board of Commissioners budget that can be rerouted into that purpose.
Yeah, so that could be addressed at the committee
level. What the commission had asked for at that time was a process to be implemented, a policy. And the instruction was at the time that it would be part of this budget process, and I haven't seen anything.
I don't remember that going that way, Commissioner Henschel.
Go watch some tapes.
And how much money is that going to cost?
It's pretty minuscule.
Yeah.
It's actually
minuscule?
Well, it costs less than paper. The paper that you get in your board pack, it costs more than going with technology. That was the idea. It's a savings, and it's setting the example for the environmentally conscious people in our community that, hey, if we go electronic, it costs less than making the copies.
What about us people that are still in the stone tablet
You
and
are
chisel area?
welcome to have your chisel.
Yeah. My understanding on this thing is that if the commissioners wanted to have an opportunity to have one of these things, they were to meet with administration, and they were, going to price them out and then come back to the board and get approval. And the folks that didn't want one, that was the way it was, so.
Well, it was Dean Bott's recommendation that we kick that ball down the road, and here we are down the road, and nothing's here.
Commissioner Henschel is correct, and I did not have a chance to discuss this with Dave because we had, quite frankly, bigger issues to deal with. But the county administrator is correct. There's funding in the commissioner's budget to deal with this, but we have not had the time to look at what that policy would look like. And it's my fault for dropping the ball on that one, not Dave's.
I mean, it won't affect me. I won't be here next year. You can turn me down flat, I don't care. But I mean, it was in the Record Eagle that we're doing this, and we're looking at this, and then the ball got kicked. And,
Well, we've got the money in the budget if the board wishes to do that next year.
It's not a funding issue.
Trust me, there's been a lot of things in the Record Eagle that I didn't necessarily think ever came to fruition.
All right, we have
One last comment.
We have okay, go ahead.
Just one last comment, and this is to the point that any of these motions are a surprise for Commissioner Thomas. This whole process started late. Okay, I mean, that's and no fault of our new administrator. In fact, I think he's done a fine job given what he has to work with. I'll tell you, it's kind of hard to not surprise anybody without violating FOIA laws or violating Open Meetings Act laws. So I take I have a little objection to that, unless there's some secret talks going on behind the scenes that aren't supposed to be happening. Okay? This is where the discussion is supposed to be held. There's a limited amount of discussion that we can have behind the scenes, maybe with the administrator, but between commissioners, theoretically, we're not supposed to be talking amongst ourselves.
Well, I don't know where you're getting at, Commissioner Gilman.
Well, what I'm getting at is
You do it at the committee meeting.
We've had
one committee meeting where we had a budget before that, and I didn't have the complete book in front of me to look at some of these things. And I requested it afterwards, and here we are in between then and now.
Yeah.
Okay? So anything that I have right now is not at all a surprise.
No, it's fair
merely
game.
a matter of, it's fair game.
It's just fair game. That's absolutely right. It's all fair game. Yeah. And everybody was invited in to review the budget book in detail if they wanted to. And everybody knew that, when we hired the county administrator, we postponed the difficult, tough decisions of structural changes, and we wanted the new administrator to come aboard with a fresh set of eyes, a fresh set of different thinking and thoughts regarding budget processes and strategic planning. And we were willing to go with his recommendation on the budget and then start the structural process in the beginning of next year. And that was the premise all along. Now, everybody had the opportunity to go in, administration office, or during our discussions at Ways and Means, and bring anything they want up, especially disboarding. That I don't fault Commissioner Gilman on that, but that's the direction that we were going in. And as far as I'm concerned, there has never been any off or secret or off-premise discussions with commissioners regarding what our intention was this year for the old 13 budget.
That wasn't my point.
Well, you did just say
No,
that
my point.
you're talking
my
behind
point is,
scenes.
it was said it was a surprise.
You just insinuated that the board's talked behind scenes on the budget discussion, and and then you're the only one left out.
All right. I'll say it once again. It was called a surprise. The only way it wouldn't be a surprise is if there were some conversations in the background. That's all I'm saying. So there's no way it could have been a surprise. It's just fair game. That's what it is.
No.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of you bringing up stuff, that's all fair game. But to insinuate that, that there's been discussions behind the scenes among board members on what we were going to do with this budget is not right.
All right. I'm not sure that anyone is insinuating that there was any behind-the-scene discussion about the budget. That's not the way I understood the comments. I guess the most important thing that I see is this is a living, viable document. We have been presented a budget. At any time within the next 14 months, we'll have the opportunity to amend that budget. So, we were presented with a balanced 2013 budget. We have a motion and a second on the floor, and I would simply ask that we vote.
Okay, everybody ready to vote? Everybody know that we have an amendment?
I just have a question for
Yeah.
Dave. Dave, we're deficit spending, if you will, over $600,000 this year. And we got the glue to plug those holes this year, because we got some one-time money coming in. In a few years, my understanding is we have an unfunded liability with our retirement system that's going to start cranking up. Right? I understand that, right?
Yes, but we also have an act out there that may help us out with that has been approved by the governor.
Okay. And if that doesn't come through, or, as Commissioner Gilman insinuates...
Might be a roll of the dice?
We're rolling the dice. Do we have any projection of increased revenue? We have a reason to believe there'll be more money 2-3 years down the road than there is today?
Oh, I think that all the indications right now are that the economy in Grand Traverse County has stabilized and is actually improving now. That the housing market is not going backwards anymore, it's now going forwards. Building permits are actually going up, houses are being sold, they're being sold for prices that are rising, and so we got a lot of very good indicators. There's no guarantees, obviously. We could double dip into a recession and who knows what could happen. History has just changed. We can't base our next move on what happened before. But you can reasonably assume that it's going to get a little bit better.
So
right now,
we're in uncertain times, and we're still spending $600,000 plus more than we have income.
Well, you understand that the $600,000 fund balance usage is put in there really to offset the fact that you budget for full employment and you are not going to have full employment. So that savings is going to equal the amount of your fund balance. Where the deficit comes in, then the real structural deficit is we are using about $1 million to take care of, we're not doing the asphalt in the parking lot, and, we haven't for a couple years now, and we have a one-time revenue from Copper Ridge and a one-time revenue from the Risk Management Authority that is taking care of the whole problem for one more whole year for us. We must go through our strategic planning process early next year with the new board starting out in January and complete it before the budget process begins so that we can and we must set our negotiation strategy and look at, 3 years down the road with our revenues and make that line come back to zero. And we can do that. It's not rocket science. It just takes some conscious decisions by the board. And I hope that I'm laying out a process to allow the board to see how that's done and to do it. So, I'm very confident that you're going to do it. I just see that you're all fiscally conservative people, and you will see what you need to do, and you'll do the right thing.
Okay, Commissioner Lemko.
Yeah, I'm really excited about going forward with a 3-year plan. I mean, we've always done 1-year budgets, and that's really been to our detriment in some cases. And so when we start looking at negotiations with our employees, and we're looking at 3-year contracts coming up and how we're going to do that, if we don't have a 3-year plan, shame on us. But also, I think one of the things that I've always said all along that we're probably never going to get is revenue sharing. But we also have that opportunity that should be coming on board, coming in 15, 14?
2016.
15? Yeah, and so at that point, we should be able to think about putting that into our unfunded liability.
Hopefully. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Everybody ready? And we have a motion to approve the budget with one amendment included in the motion, and that's the $20,000 senior center fund Wheels on Wheels. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Max Bauer?
No.
Thomas?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Lemko?
Yes.
Henschel?
No.
Gilman?
No.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Please?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes. Motion passes with 3 noes? Right, Maxbauer, Henschel, and Gilman.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
6-3.
All right. We will now move on to the Civic Center fence issue. Commissioner Henschel.
Thank you. We've kind of beat the issue to death of stepping on other boards' toes, so I am not going to recommend that we do that. Basically, though, because of the potential public health and safety issue, I would just simply move that we forward the petition we received and the information we received regarding the fence removal to the Parks and Rec Commission and request they respond indicating what they intend to do.
Support that.
Discussion. I guess I have an issue with the motion, but Commissioner Wheelock.
I guess, Mike, I know that I, along with some of the rest of you, did attend some of the public process in regard to the master plan for the Civic Center. It was always discussed that the fencing was coming down. This community has spent a great deal of effort clearing the waterfront to give us the open space without fences, without buildings. The Civic Center park facility looks considerably better and more inviting now that it's open. I hope at some point in the near future, we actually have a sign out by the highway that identifies this as a county park and some sort of directions of how to get in there. Because even the people that drive by it and know that it's a county park still don't know how to get there. So I truly believe that the master plan was a good process, and I'm sure that there are individuals within our community that do not agree with all of the decisions that were made. I'm pretty sure not everyone agrees with pretty much most of the decisions I make some nights. But the fact is that there was an open public process and a master plan was developed, and that master plan called for the removal of these fences. And the Parks and Recreation Commission has moved forward with the implementation. If my memory is right, Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, Russ Clark, who was a professional planner, helped to develop that master plan. He donated his fee for the development of that master plan to go toward the implementation of the master plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, I really believe that due diligence has been made to create a master plan for that facility, and the Parks and Recreation Board needs to be given credit for working toward the implementation of that master plan.
Commissioner Gilman.
Well, there are a lot of people who donate their professional time and energies to worthwhile causes, and this doesn't diminish his participation in the master plan. However, there are sometimes things that don't get considered in the planning process. One of these things, I think, is autistic flight, perhaps, as described earlier. I'm not a big fan again, I don't want to tell the Parks Board what to do, but I don't think it's unreasonable to send them a copy of the protests by the public to let them know, hey, there is a potential situation here. The other thing, just as an advisory, we had a presidential visit a few years back. They wouldn't have been able to have it at the Civic Center without the fence that was there. Now, I don't know if a short fence would be sufficient or not, but I'm just saying there are certain situations that do require a certain containment of an area. And, I like the looks of it myself. I drive by, I say, that's pretty neat. It's opened up, I will admit. But, again, having not thought about that, there are considerations, and those of us who don't run at the sound of a loud noise for whatever reason don't think about bolting into the street sans offense.
Okay, Commissioner Fleece, and then Commissioner Maxbauer.
The only question I have of you, Sonny, is what's the county's liability for the autistic child that runs into East Front Street and is run over and killed? I happen to have an autistic grandchild, and I can identify real well with what them people were talking about tonight. And I realize you can't have it for everyone, but that, like Jason said, perhaps that's a consideration that nobody mentioned in the master plan process. And, you know, it's like the electrical malfunction down to the marina. There's an 18-year-old kid dead because nobody followed through. So what's the amount of the liability for the county if something like that happens?
Commissioner Max Bauer.
I will say that Sonny is exactly right. We had public hearings on the master plan, but we all know that you can count on one hand the number of people that attend those hearings and usually have fingers left over. I wish that upon speaking with Commissioner Henschel, I truly wish that we had reached out to the special needs community and made an extra effort to do that. I will tell you that no one thought of it. You know, and perhaps there's a way, as this letter gets forwarded to the Parks Commission, perhaps there's a way where we can come up with a compromise that will work for everyone. I don't know, but in the future, I certainly, if I return to this board in the next term, I certainly will be looking to the special needs community and ask someone to please sit on the Parks Board that that sees things from a different perspective than I do.
Yeah, I guess the question I have is, you know, we own a lot of parks, and none of them are, to my recollection, are fenced in, so the same situation occurs. You know, somebody brings a child down to a park, a county park or a city park or a township park that's not fenced in, you have the same argument. So I would have the same argument of them taking their child to the grocery store or the party store or to a neighbor's house or whatever. I mean, they're always going to have, if they have a child with that disability, they've got to pay special attention to that child and have a control factor. And you can't gate every park in every place that the public goes. And I'm sensitive to what you're going through as a parent. But you just can't gate everything. You can't gate everything.
You make a valid point,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. It's an absolutely valid point.
Yeah.
There is one small difference, and that's about 20,000 cars. I mean, you know, and that's about the only difference. Now, again, the walkway is there. You know, I mean, how the park is used, I don't know if the master plan addresses that or not, but the walkway is there. It's next to that exit. I'm not advocating necessarily just go and say, hey, you better put up a fence, because we go back to whether or not we're fixing roads or doing any number of things. We have to make choices, but it's certainly something that probably should have been considered in the process.
Yeah. And the only thing, just to finish my comment up, and I appreciate your follow-up with that, Commissioner Gilman, is that I have absolutely no problem, and I think we should forward the public comments and the petitions over to the Parks and Rec Department as a matter of due courtesy and respect, and as a matter, of course, of us doing business with them. But to request them to do something about it, I think that's up to them to decide.
That's not part of the motion.
That is part of your motion.
No.
Your motion is to defer the information to Parks and Rec Department and ask them what they're going to do about it.
Request them to indicate what they intend to do. Yeah, that might be nothing at all. All we're asking for is an indication.
I mean, that's the issue I got, is that you're asking them to do something about it. I'm saying just
That's not
refer
what he
the...
said.
I just indicate.
Just
If
tell
they're
us.
doing nothing, that's, tell
Just
us.
advise the board, sounds to me, that's why I
It's
seconded
not
it.
a mandate that they have to do anything. We're just asking for a response.
You're asking the Parks and Rec for a response.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm sure the Parks and Rec
Would it be clear if you
will be
just say,
happy to give one.
advise the board on its...
Advise us of your intentions. If it's to do nothing, then that's it.
All right.
Well, I just don't want the perception that we are asking them to to necessarily do something about it.
Yeah, that's where I'm going.
As long as we understand that we're just forwarding the documents that were received under public comment to the Parks and Recreation Board, that's fine. But if you're saying that if it goes with the perception that the county board is directing the Parks and Recreation to take action on that, I can't support it.
Commissioner Richardson.
First of all, the Civic Center is in my neighborhood, and I walk my dog often on the track around it. It's very close by. Of course. Of course. Well, it's nice because they actually provide the bags, around the thing. So I get to stock up. Anyway, the hazards, hazard analysis or hazard inventory. I can see where taking the fence down could possibly create more hazards. I agree with Commissioner Wheelock. I think it looks a whole lot better than it did before, not having the fence there. But there are other things that go on in that track too. Whenever they have a big event in the Civic Center, there's all kinds of trucks, cars, and everything else parked basically right on top of the track. They don't close the track off during that time. And for me, where I walk from, I walk down Washington Street. To use the entrance to get on the track from the west, you have to walk on West Civic Center Drive, which has no sidewalks. The most hazardous part I've always felt for me, using that track is that half a block between Garfield and where you can walk on the muddy path to get up on the track.
And there's going to be a change in that, and that's in the master plan.
Oh, good. If it's really a concern, maybe we need to do some sort of ask the Parks and Rec Board to do some sort of overall hazard analysis for the whole place. And never mind the skateboard park. Do we even enforce headgear there?
No, we do not.
Yeah.
Much to my
I think it's great if you're on a skateboard, but look at that, I look at all those hard surfaces and what those kids are doing, I'm thinking, geez.
The list of hazards that we have in that park are much bigger than the risk of someone walking out into the road.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Commissioner Fleece and Commissioner Henschel.
Then can we vote?
Just a quick comment regarding your comments. And I agree, can't fence every park. But the major difference is number one, what Gilman said, the traffic count of the cars, and I forget what it was, but it is high. But number two, for liability reasons, the fence was there. You got a public speaking to the County Board of Commissioners tonight saying, you just created a dangerous situation. That's the difference. The fence was there, the fence isn't there. A normal kid runs out and he gets smacked, you're going to have liability.
The point is, we received probably almost the same number of emails about people that said that they really liked the way it did and it opened up.
Right, for aesthetics, I understand.
Okay, Commissioner Henschel.
I'll just point out, just a few years ago, there was a family visiting from another country on the same road down by the state park. Typical child, not autistic, no special needs, dead. Same road.
It can happen anywhere.
Now, in this community, if you have a dog, we have a park you can go to. If you have a child with special needs, we no longer have a park for you. The numbers are, and just autistic children is 1 in 88 children have autism spectrum disorder, and those aren't the only ones with the issues. You have cognitively impaired, you have Down syndrome, okay? This is a real issue in our community, and what we do about issues like this, and I'm not telling the Parks Board to do it one way or another, I'm just asking them to take a look at it. But what we do says something about how we view humanity. Do we value humans more than dogs? Because we got a park for dogs.
Is the fence?
Okay, could you...
I rest my case.
Commissioner Henschel, could you please clarify your motion for us?
So the motion is to forward to the Parks and Rec Commission the documents we received today regarding the fence removal, citizen comments, and to simply request that they indicate to us how they intend to respond to that, if at all.
Okay, simple enough. Any further comments or questions? All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Limcool,
Yes.
Henschel,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes.
Police,
Yes.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes, motion passes. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Henschel. There is no other new business. We will move on to the second public comment. Does any member of the public wish to speak? Yes. Mr. Safradini.
The best part about being last is keeping Richard up this late at night. He is older than I am. I want you to know that. But not much.
I have to get up early in the morning.
There's a couple things that I want to, the horse is out of the barn now, so there's not much talking or arguing about that. But there is something, Herb, I never knew about. I'm the chairman of the Finance Committee. Nobody ever called me. They ran to the Record Eagle and talked about this, but nobody ever called me about this. Nobody ever contacted the director and said, hey, the commission really wants you to look at this and do something. I've been around politics for a while, and I learned a long time ago that when your bosses tell you they want something, you better figure out a way to handle it. And it didn't come across to me at the last time that we appeared in front of you. This is going to be a big problem. In fact, the issue was $60,000. And Christine Maxbauer said, hey, trust us, we'll take a look at that. If we got that, we can tell you we can do something about it. I knew nothing about the excess money that's in the, what we call the senior center, or the other budget, that we could possibly use that. Had we done that, we might have been able to come up with a different answer. But it placed us in a situation where we had significant decreases in our budget. And you're going to go through that. You have a little bit a couple years ago. And you know what it's like when you're cutting and when you're trying to do things. And we're trying to maintain what our historical program has been. And even there, we have cut. But the one thing that I do want, all you would have had to do is say that. I understand it's a political year. But all you would have had to say to us is, we want something done. Or have Dave say something to the director, say, look, this is going to go.
I did.
I'm telling you that word never got back to us, that that was serious, because all we were worrying about is, where's this money going to come from? And I never thought about going to the excess funds that we had. And had we done that, I'd go back, and of course, we've got a board, but I can certainly tell you that I would say, hey, there's the handwritings on the wall, bears pooped in the woods, so we better get going. And we better make some kind of an arrangement with that so we could tear this problem. The second thing is that I want to talk about, and everybody keeps talking, we can't raise millage. It wouldn't take that much of a millage to come up with $20,000 or $40,000 to assist on Meals for Wheels. I'm talking about added to the millage that we have when it comes up the next time. And I would think it would probably be 1/100th of a mill, because 1/10 of the mill brings up about $400,000. And make that a part of the process, as I've been told by the people from Meals on Wheels. Everybody thinks that they were voting for Meals on Wheels. That never came out. We never advertised that, but that's the thing. I was surprised to hear that. So we'll take those things into consideration, but again, I would say to you, you're big brother. We understand that. I understand, that you're the people that, you're the people who make the final decision. But if you remember, we brought a budget to you, and you said to us, hey, we don't want that at the other end. You're asking too much of an increase. We went back and significantly decreased those things once, because we said, hey, they're telling us to do it, so we're doing it. We understand that part of it. But when you do above us and over us, it's a slap in the face. I'm just telling you, my personal feeling is that was kind of a slap in the face. Not that it's not beneficial, that it's going to, $20,000 is not going to kill us, and it's going to hopefully provide, Meals on Wheels with that money so they can serve the number of people. But even at that, it's my feeling that if in fact, they didn't get the $20,000, they would have got $20,000. I told what's his name when they left us, I'll give you $100. I feel strong about Meals on Wheels. So I've kept you here long enough.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ralph. Any other public comment?
I definitely don't want to keep anyone up longer. I just want to say thank you to both the Commission and to the Commission on Aging. As I mentioned, what's important is that we all work together, we all partner together, and I know this has gotten political, like I said, which is not my thing, so I'm just looking forward to moving forward with the COA, with you guys. And do want to say, as it's been said, that the $20,000 is very important, serves a lot of meals. We still have a significant need. As it was said, it's a drop in the bucket. It's very important, but there still is a need out there. And so I just kind of want to say that. And one thing about the millage, because it's been brought up, I, as a taxpayer, would not feel comfortable knowing that there's a senior millage for in-home services, senior center millage, and then another millage for Meals on Wheels. That just doesn't make sense. Somewhere in between there, we need to all work together to help seniors. So just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment tonight? Seeing none, we will close public comment, and we move on to county commissioner reports. Any county, Commissioner Thomas?
One thing, the BPW had a committee of the whole meeting this morning. I would have to say it looks like we're heading away from the special assessment, and they're going to raise rates, which
that'll stop people from pumping.
And I suggested to them that they raise the rates and have a voluntary discount program too, where you could buy a card. But we'll see what happens. Whatever they do is going to take at least 6 months. So.
Okay. Commissioner Max Bauer.
I just want to mention at that BPW meeting this morning, John Alashkar said that according to his math, the break-even point is 20 cents a gallon.
Oh my God.
It's 19.7 actually, but you may as well round it up to 20.
Maybe what they can do is clean those tanks out and make wine in them.
That's good.
Commissioner Wheelock.
Couple
Better
things.
go with the cat one.
One, just a reminder, the annual Planning Commission Awards dinner is tomorrow night, 6 o'clock at the Williamsburg Dinner Theater.
And I would be happy to pay for Commissioner Gilman's ticket. I'll meet you at the door.
I'm not even going to go there. Some of you probably remember, in my home, we're a little involved in the Michigan Odyssey of the Mind thing. The regional tournament will again be held in Traverse City in the first weekend in March. And for the first time ever, the state tournament will be held in conjunction with NMC and TCAPS at Central High School. And the state tournament will be housed here. And I think it's the second weekend in April. I'll have to get you the date on that. And the state tournament, or the international tournament, is going to be held at Michigan State University. So Michigan fares very well this year. I will again be selling advertisements in the program. For a multitude of different things, but that anybody's interested can contact me in regard to that. The other announcement I would make, there's a distinct possibility that I will not be here for public health and safety next week. I am having shoulder surgery on Wednesday, and depending on whether that goes real well and early in the morning or late in the afternoon, I may or may not be here. So
Vice Chair is Lemko? Who's Vice Chair of that committee?
Lemko's Ways and Means.
Depending upon what drugs you get, you could come and you might be a hoot.
Aren't you the Vice
It's not my
Chair?
first time. Public health and safety? I don't know.
Yeah,
I have to look.
I think he is.
I'm not the Vice Chair on there.
All right, Commissioner Gilman.
No.
No, go ahead.
Commissioner Thomas? You said?
Yeah.
All right, anybody else?
How about them Tigers?
All right, yeah. Mercy killing, that's all.
I was at game
Are we
4.
done?
It wasn't
All
pretty,
right.
but it was the best game of the
Notices and
bunch.
announcements. Anything else on notices and announcements? We don't have a closed session. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Wheelock, seconded by Richardson. All in favor? Aye.
Roll call.
Max Bauer wants to stay here all night. She votes no. We are
Let's all
adjourned.
go out to the open space. No,
Somebody's going to have to show me how to get out of here.
it's a nice place to hang out.
No, really, I
Navigate by the star.
saw where you had to make